morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Zwift Community Live broadcast of the Zwift Classics race number 6 in the Rundum in Innsbruck. We're on for the Eastern, Central, and Western Europe stream C1 and C3 categories. Nathan Garrow here, Dave Toll. Leg snappers coming up quick for the C1s. They are out on course. They've got 3.5 kilometers covered. Dave, this is a super iconic map, 2018 Worlds course launch that came along with this. But the Innsbruck Ring was something special of a kind of crit course, kind of circuit. It's just short enough that you could it's more of a circuit race though, rather than a traditional crit course, in my opinion.
I agree, though. I mean, it does play out a lot like a crit course that has a featured climb. Kind of reminds me of the old Stillwater course that they had up in Minnesota, climbing up out of a river valley. It is, I'd say, about a third of the great American races have a very similar profile to the course that we're looking at. You know, I think, though, Nathan, to tell you the truth, for a really fit athlete on top of their game, the leg snapper is really not that big of a deal. They hop right up it, to tell you the truth. It's guys like me that struggle.
Yeah, and I think the reality of what the leg snapper does has more to do with like after the race, or not after the leg snapper, or how many times you go over it with attacks after the fact, right? It's not necessarily the climb itself; it's what it does to the rest of the race. As we jump in with our C1s heading
it's a
into the
launch
leg snapper
pad
for the first. Exactly, it puts people into the red in a way that allows you to do other things on course if it was not there.
Yeah, you'll see. There's a really interesting. You make that hard turn off of the right hand turn off of the top of the leg snapper, and that's where you can really double down. But you know, I love this course. Don't get me wrong. This is absolutely one of my favorites. It deserves the term iconic. And back in Innsbruck, this was the site of the World Championships. Obviously, this is a different rendition, but a course that really gives the riders something to work with out here over the course of. So we're going to be in with the C1s and C3s today. It's 45 kilometers of racing over 5 laps. That will make up for 385 meters of climbing. And it doesn't entirely come at you on the leg snapper, but probably 80% of it does.
Ooh. No, we do not want to exit Zwift.
No, sir. That's where I would hit the wrong button, for sure.
So we'll head back on over toward, as they head into the leg snapper here, we'll head on over toward the C3s as they head up. Interesting enough there for a second. We'll get back in with our racing there, the C1s in just a moment. But hitting wrong buttons for just a second. Toward the front here, it looks like we've got 89 starters. I think 70 or so have made this front group in the C3s. Now, we do have some questions coming on through participation, essentially. And also, there was a question about scheduling when it comes to the races out here today. And the reason that we don't do that is partially with the AutoCAD. It is we are doing some testing, obviously, with the different categories and how we get into them with AutoCAD. So that's part of it. Definitely for ZRL, we will have a full schedule being put out there as well. So always being able to take a look and see on that front. But for the classics, just a little bit different. This section, of course, though, Dave, a lot of times, especially on the first lap, not a whole lot's going to be going on. A lot of times this race is raced in a way that people look forward to the leg snapper each lap, but that does open up some opportunities for some sleeping to happen amongst the pack at other sections of the course.
Agreed. It's a good example of AutoCAD helping level out the talent in these groups as well, because you're going to want to save it for the last time up the leg snapper, no doubt about it. These groups are going to be large enough. It looks like there's one rider who's going to disagree with me, or at least make things thin out the herd a little bit here, as this course does beg you to come out and race it. Let's see if this splits things up at all. So, Nathan, this is the C3s that we're in with, doing 36K. As the want to just confirm that's the C's.
Yeah, C3s we're in with the Magpie.
C3s, all right, or C3s, I should say.
Move on the front. We do see a lot of burrito power ups being used. Interesting enough, that's going to make things a little bit more difficult through this section. Some arrow power ups here. This Magpie move, not too sure about it. Most likely going to put him in a tough spot, actually, as the group catches right on up to him. I did chat about exactly that kind of a move in the world of Zwift. That there is some drafting you can get into the climb and burn some matches a little bit later on as you are able to carry speed with the rest of the pack. We do have Dunn here off the front just a little bit, 6.7 from him on the attack early. Looks like most likely be brought back as the second kick comes through at the 8%. Electric Spirit now with Doig to the front. And this is really when you go that the moves matter, this second half of the climb.
Yeah, the damage that you're doing to the back of the group, really. So there's a lot of things to talk about that burrito, Nathan. Something folks might not be entirely familiar with is that's our first trip up the leg snapper. So you get a good look at it. You can see how the grade never, I mean, it doesn't ever go into that insane 16%. It stays steep for a while there, but let's see what happens here after the first time up that climb. You're certainly going to find the riders that have got the heavy legs, Nathan, or those that just their head isn't in it, because that first effort right there will certainly blow the cobwebs out.
Definitely. It looks like a little bit of a gap here now as we do hit that little bump in the road. And wow, this is absolutely demolished already here, Dave. This is going to come back together with, I think, the lead split at this point, but a lot of riders going to find themselves in with the second group, I think. And this is going to be the formation around Haran. I think the rest of they are starting to coalesce here to gain some speed. So a lot of racing left, but this goes to show where people are at. I mean, time after time over the top of the leg snapper, this is going to happen. And if you're getting shelled this early, most likely later on, it's not going to bode well.
This is a good example of how racing in esports works, to tell you the truth. They go out hard. It's very aggressive. You got to really just grip it and hang on for a while. And I do think that we will see about a third of our starters here not make it into this first selection. And that's really a great word for what you're looking at, is a selection. These guys will make it back, the riders that we've got on screen, and we'll see a bit of a reassembly of the guard here at the front. But yeah, that's a perfect example of what the leg snapper can do. That's the first of 4 trips. Trip 2 and 3 will be pretty similar, and then it'll be all out. I mean, just old school fury the 4th time up that. But the finish line is not at the top of leg snapper. That would make things a little bit different. But to tell you the truth, it's going to take quite a bit of work here, Nathan, for these guys to start closing down these gaps. You make a good point. If you found yourself in trouble on lap 1, it's going to be a long day out here. No doubt about it.
It's going to be Carl Thessalius and Wallback now off the front just a little bit here. This is going to be Team SZ with their manager in game. Good to see Carl making a little bit of a move. He actually was in a Twitch chat earlier today telling me he was going to take all of the advice, and it looks like SZ with 2 riders doing exactly that, backing off a little bit and waiting for the right move and moment. It looks like here as he allows the pack to carry him down this little bit of a negative gradient here. A lot of times the counter through this section is the place to go. As you can see that 0% grade in the upper right-hand corner, and then there'll be a little bit of a 1% bump here. And with this gap, you can make the chase group have to match you. Look at this, 13 meters at the bottom of the screen right now. Means they're getting no draft on them. If anybody were to push the pace at the front up this little 1%, it would force those riders to do a little bit more work to come back. Not going to be happening. Though Wahlberg gets back on. Carl didn't want to drop Wahlberg anyways, as he has a teammate. So looks like they've got 4 that have made this front group in that SZ with the activists on the back there, blue, yellow, and white kit. Plenty of bodies here to work with and really break things apart. Watch out for this team, I think, today. I think they've got a plan, Dave.
Absolutely. That is noteworthy. And just the way that they're riding here. See, you're not going to win this race on the first lap, but you can do a lot of damage and put yourself in a much better position to win the race later. And that's exactly what we're seeing here now. The riders that are tucked up into this group who've made it through that first barrage out there are certainly now going to take a look around, do some inventory, and realize that there's plenty more to come. But there's no point in attacking out of this group right now.
No, and at this point, you can calm right on down. Most likely, well, I mean, At this point right here, this is when I would actually maybe. So for me on this course, the only point that I would not be attacking if I have, it is specific, very specific sections depending on where the group is at. So the downhill on the other side of the lake snapper, no point to really attack. You can, make sure that the speeds are high, work together on that downhill. I wouldn't necessarily put in any serious attacks through that section. Over the top of the lake snapper, pushing the pace over there and make sure things break
I mean,
apart.
putting in a serious attack though is dependent upon what's happening in the race,
Yeah,
right? I
true.
mean, like,
Exactly.
so I mean, there's so much more than just the course profile to why you would or wouldn't attack.
Yes, exactly. Depending on where the riders are at. So there's some very specific situations on this course. If it's all back together, the group is
Like
just pulling you back in.
if you found the most dangerous sprinter, you're in a small group, a group this size, and you found that the most dangerous sprinter to your team wasn't in this group, that's a good time to keep the pace high, right? To not make them work to rejoin or not rejoin at all, for sure, at this point in the race. Just because right now we're coming up on 10K in. This group has 36K of racing, 25K with 3 trips up the leg snapper. I'd be hesitant to play all my cards right now.
Yeah, I think well, I mean, my my course profile recon on this one is always attack. Never stop. Never stop.
Just
And
whittle the group down and whittle. I
just
mean, because that's
continue, yeah, and
yeah.
but there's certain sections where it's not going to pay off at all, and it does depend on who's with you, what they're doing, and that little section with the downhill after the sprint, if they are coming back to you, they're just going to snowball you. But immediately following that, I definitely give it a little bit of a kick. These sections through here, every little 1% that I got, if they're not rolling up to me for free speed, I'd be probably attacking through here as well. Going over the top of the little 2% uphill gradient bridge, that whole thing from bottom to top of it. But if you go halfway, totally not worth it. So it's very timing oriented. And that's why you were right to say there is a lot of things about this is like traditional crit racing, because there are sections in a crit course where you're just wasting energy. It makes zero sense whatsoever, depending on what the pack is doing at that moment. And almost every lap, it might make zero sense. But there's other sections that you almost always want to do something at, if you are trying to make some moves. So this course, I think, especially on these sections where everyone's just looking toward that leg snapper, you can really catch people off guard and get some breaks going. But you got to be willing. You got to be willing to throw orange numbers, and you got to take the risk. And essentially, you're saying, I'm not here for the sprint if you do so.
So taking a look at some of the riders that are up in this front group here, again, you can see right on your screen, it's a good sized group, but it's really quite, I mean, we started with 89 riders out here. So you can see that's about a quarter of the field. And I don't know, we'll have a feel for if anybody possibly could come back into this group, but it's starting to get to the point where you doubt it the next time up the leg snapper. That certainly seems like a very remote possibility, but you do see the Swedish flag showing up quite a bit here. That's going to be the Swedish Swifters.
Back in with the C1s.
It looks like we're going to
the head to the front here. It's going to be Arts Center and Just BL13 showing up. BL13 took a win this morning with Daz Carter. It was a super solid effort. He little bit of a sneak away with about 800 meters to go. Just snuck off the front, and not really snuck off the front. He threw down a solid little bit of an attack, some orange numbers, but it wasn't the sprint.
At what point in the race was the attack?
It was right in the last 800 meters, right in that last 800 meters. Yeah, and
how big was the group that he attacked out? How big was the group that he attacked out of?
It was about, I think there were about 12, 13 riders left at that point. Yeah,
so theoretically, the rider in that 12 or 13 rider group who had done the least amount of work up till that point had a huge advantage, right?
So if they would have chased it down, if Mashed Potato was the guy.
Well, he did.
he was the
He
guy
had the
who
most energy. Right. I mean, that's how
he was the
he
guy we
went.
were
But
all
that's
looking
my
for.
point.
But Mashed Potato didn't win. Mashed Potato sat on it, and
So he got caught.
Daz Carter ended up winning. So
Okay. Well,
Daz
so
went.
my point being, though, is that 12, 13, 14 rider group, whatever that might be, being the rider who's in that group, who did the least amount of work up to that point, that's sort of the man you want to be, or the woman that you want to be.
If it ends up playing out for you, but Mashed Potato ended up
Well, you're
not
in that
catching Daz
group.
Carter and
I'm saying that
losing the
you're
race.
in the group that's contesting for the win,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it did play out for you.
He
Right?
ended up, I think, second or third, but Carter, being relentless, ended up winning
Well,
on
I'm
the
not
day.
saying him. I'm not saying him. I'm saying that in that entire group, all the riders that have made it into the, air quotes, final selection, right?
Yep.
So everybody who's in the hunt for the mix, or in the mix for the win, I should say, the rider who's done the least amount of work at that point has played his cards the best
100%.
mentally.
Yep.
Right. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
100%.
saying. Now, I'm not saying you're going to win for sure. Oftentimes they don't. But that's obviously the rider who made the best decisions to that final play.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a pure sprinter's course, he made the best decisions. If it does come down to that, he rolled the dice, and as far as that went, it ended up not being a sprint to the finish line. So it's two different ways to play this course. We saw Ed Hopper get away with one to go, and it ended up working out with him back in the KISS Super League. And he almost got caught, though. It was 2 seconds. The Python almost nipped him at the line. He got 44 seconds at one point, and then ended up getting nipped not getting nipped at the line, but so incredibly close. So it's a huge risk, though, for sure, if you're not going to put your chips in for just the sprint, if you have that. Now, we are seeing the open up here. And bang now. Give it a go. PO auto now. And it's no aero power up for him, though. But look at this from Valencia. No, it's actually going to be Worm, John Worm, coming through. Solid effort from the SC team. They're all over the race here today.
So that is not the finish line, though.
No, it is the sprint banner.
So
each and every
right.
lap.
So we should talk about there's a lot of things at play here with fastest through segments, fastest across the line, a little bit different in our classics that we're racing here this summer or winter, depending on where you are. But the riders are out hunting for points, and let's see if that does any damage to this group.
We have noticed that coming to that sprint section each lap, it's definitely made things more difficult on the riders through that section. You do see riders struggling because it's immediately after the leg snapper. People are just trying to find their rhythm at that point. Where am I? What just happened? And a lot of times that sprint then, for those who do still have a kick, does find riders who are just trying to get back on terms off the back a little bit, especially with these burrito power-ups being popped. They are area of effect, which means they make everyone around you within a certain radius unable to draft the riders. So definitely making things even more difficult.
The burrito power-up going to be new to some folks, Nathan. We should talk about that and its anti-drafting abilities or the effect.
Yeah, so area of effect there with the burrito power-up, it makes it so that riders, it used to be just right behind you. Your draft would disappear only on your avatar. And anybody who was trying to get the draft off of your avatar was not going to get anything. But that kind of, especially amongst the pack, doesn't really matter because if other people are there, then the draft is just coming off of them. So the burrito now was changed up in an update to make it so that it was an area of effect, so that everyone around you within a certain radius that makes sense for how far your draft would work is unable to draft anyone. All riders' drafts are turned off through as long as that power up does last. So you're able to get breakaways a little bit easier with that power up. Using it immediately from the get go on an attack, not necessarily the best use in my opinion, and it really is after a split has happened and people are already kind of struggling to hang on to your wheel. And you've already got that gap. They've come across maybe, or they're about to make contact. Boom! That's the worst time, Dave, is when you throw down the burrito power, because they're just looking for whatever they can get out of it. A lot of times we do see people attack with a burrito And it's when everybody's still got the power in the legs, when they're trying to get back on terms, but it's not really where they're
But aren't
suffering.
you trying to get that gap though? Like, isn't that so hard to do? Because it seems like that. I like that play, to tell you the truth, because it's aggressive. You're trying to get a gap, and it's hugely important when you're attacking that they not be in your draft. Where on the other side, it's like if it's someone struggling to get back into the group, well, they're already in trouble. You're just kind of throwing salt in the wound, right?
So go ahead, help me understand that, Dave.
So you're saying that you don't like riders attacking and using the burrito because everyone feels good and strong?
Yeah, so most likely
So I'm saying, yeah, that's
it's
when
not
you
going to
need
do a
it.
whole lot of damage.
Well,
It's not
but you need every advantage you can get. Maybe it's not the right time to attack then. I don't know. But I mean, I was just thinking that, to those that are trying to make a split and be aggressive, you're looking for everything you can get to try to not have them in your draft. And that's what the burrito does. So,
yeah, and that there's
I mean,
definitely some I'm just not seeing where how it's useful at that point. Like what kind of what is the so I see that power ups is kind of like I'm gonna do some extra damage to the other riders in some sort of way, and I don't see it taking
so,
anything away
so
from the other riders.
I guess I don't see a power up as being looking to do damage to others. I look at it as trying to extend my own advantage. So if I'm trying to attack, I don't want them on my wheel, and that burrito helps me not have them on my wheel. That's my thought.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I just think that it's not going to keep them off your wheel with an initial attack. It's just, they're gonna be able to hold on
My
just
thought
fine
would
because they're
be
fresh and
anything's
ready to
better than
go.
nothing. Anything's better than nothing
And it
is
is
my.
so it is a negative effect, right? So it's not a positive effect. We have positive effect power ups, which are
It's a
arrow
positive
power
effect for
ups,
me, the person
but
deploying it.
but it doesn't do anything to you, right? So it does something to the other avatars where an
Well,
arrow
it does
power up.
do something. It does something for me, is my thought, in that the person I'm trying to not have on my wheel, it makes it harder for them to be on my wheel. I
True, true.
think,
Yeah, yeah,
unless I'm
yeah. It
reading it
does.
wrong.
It does. It does. But by definition, it's a
So
negative
that does
effect
something
to
for me
other
by doing something negative for them.
for them exactly. And so, the greatest impact is how does it negatively affect the other riders? And I'm just not seeing it negatively affecting the other riders a lot with the initial attack, but it'll do a lot more when they're trying to really, really hold on and they're in trouble. Um, I think it definitely will do something. Just the amount of impact is going to be a little bit less if it's used initially. Now it's cool though. Burrito power is being used. And it's when the orange numbers are going and bam, but not just sure it's going to do a whole lot at those moments though. I just
Well,
have
what
never seen
else
it.
have? Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing if it's orange numbers, what else are you gonna do? You don't have another power up that you can choose. You've got this burrito. It theoretically makes the draft a little bit less. So why not? What at that point? You're looking for every little advantage you can get, and the advantages are so little out here. When you look at this group, how everybody is strong, right? So, but I understand what you're saying. You would
Yeah, the
rather use
moment
it
like
to.
what
I
is the
get it.
moment to use it? What's the moment to use the burrito power up? I think
I mean, you could say the
when
same
people
thing.
need
Do you
draft
want
the
to?
most, when people need the draft the most is going to be the times to make it happen. Now, if you're in a pack and
You could say the
everyone's
same.
suffering hugely, that would be the moment, even if it's a large pack and everyone's in a lot more difficulty, like a steady uphill grind for 5 minutes or something like that, then that's a whole another story.
Well, you could use the same discussion about like. So, do you want to use the feather for reduce your weight when you're trying to attack, or when you are being dropped? What's better?
Ooh, yeah. For me, when you're being dropped, because if you're getting dropped,
So
it's over,
clearly,
right?
we're of a different mindset.
If
So
you're getting dropped, it's
right, and
over.
if you're getting dropped, it's over. So who cares? I would use it to make the difference in the race. I guess it depends on who you are and what your abilities are and how it's going.
Yeah,
Like that.
100%. Yeah, that's a big one.
You could use the feather as a defensive, to help save yourself if they attack. It can be a bit of a defensive feather, or it can be an offensive tool. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many
With that
different
one,
ways.
with that one, it's definitely depends on the timing hugely because uh, if you're feeling good, you want to get that advantage and take that positive power up as far as you possibly can. A lot of times, especially in the longer races, if I'm questioning where I'm going to be at amongst this pack, I'm like, maybe I just hold on to this for because I'm not like a pure climber. You know, you put me on a course with Ed Laverick, he's going to drop me like a bad habit if we get into a climb. Like, and so uh, if I have that feather power up and I know Ed's in there, I'm like, yeah, when it's time to go, I'm going to need this to hang on for dear life, right? So
Yeah.
definitely thinking that way. But if I'm also looking, hey, it's later in the race and we're gonna have a little bump here, I better get rid of this and use it at my full advantage to hurt everybody and look for an arrow because it looks like it's coming down to a sprint maybe, or get a break with that feather. So we're heading
See, this is
into.
exactly
Go ahead, Dave.
well, it's exactly what racing is all about. When you different people see the tools and advantages and disadvantages and how you win the race. That's the tactics. That's what's so fun about this. It's so much more than just who can pedal the bike the longest, the hardest, and you certainly learn a lot from other people's racing styles. And we've talked about how in order to win, you have to risk losing, but also, taking a whole bunch of risks out there really eliminates your chances of winning as well. So sometimes it's the conservative rider that is able to, that's what I was talking about earlier, the rider who just does enough to keep making the group that goes into the race for the final for the win. Other racers definitely look at it differently, where they're going to attack and attack and attack until they blow this thing up and just be the last man standing, and that works too. Different courses suit different styles of racing, and but there's no doubt that at the end of the day, the racers make the race. We're going back to another moment where things get pretty tough out here, no doubt about it. See a lot of power ups being used.
Looking and
Draft
seeing,
power ups is what the van speaks to.
and a little bit of a kick here. It looks like from Belgian riders on the front here, SBSD now, and it's gonna be followed up by Union, but a little bit of a kick from
Just
Vanden
about everybody orange.
Wingarden here. Juster BL13 looking to come across, and the Belgian rider here getting a
See
little bit
that?
of a gap. Not going to go much of anywhere, but it causes the rest of the group to surge though, which is going to do some damage to a few riders trying to just hang on. Painter, who you had pointed out a little bit earlier, coming out of the US of A.
Michael Painter there, but yeah, you can see that 95% of the field there just did enough to stay in that group. No extra matches burnt. You're still going to have to do work. There's no way to avoid that. But not burning extra calories there. That was a pretty conservative trip up the leg snapper there. That's a good look at, what you 400 meters at 8% more or less will do. Put everybody up in the orange there for about 30, 45 seconds, Nathan. It's
Yeah,
not
25
fun.
riders making it. It looks like Painter be able to stick in. There were a couple of riders though. Jack Hague, it looks like. Is that going to be Jack? Let me double check here. And almost able to
So
make that front group.
that's Jeff Hague, the
Jeff,
Canadian, the dirt
okay.
rider. Yeah.
Excuse me. Jack is a rider who I believe races on the mountain bike. But
Ah,
dirt alert
talking
off
about
the
Jeff,
back
the
now.
Canadian, Jeff Hague. Dirt alert. um, this is tough because, well, you know what? This is where a good, solid effort might get you back in, but nah, they're going to keep pushing here. So we're in with our C1s now. This is our European East and the Rund am Innsbruck. Well underway at this point. For this category that we're with now, again, this is the C1s that we're with 45 kilometers, 5 laps. That's their second trip up the leg snapper.
And you can see the little bit of a
Yikes.
spreading out of the pack here that's happening each and every lap because of that sprint section. Now a little bit of a negative 2%, as you can see. And
You know what's
Last year able to
interesting,
get back
Nathan,
out
though?
there.
Notice how no one's going up into the orange numbers, so nobody's really panicking back here. Not that it's easy to make 4 watts per kilo, but that's, most of these guys right in there. So this is not an all hands on deck moment as much as it kind of looked like it to me. But I
Yeah,
think
it
I
just kind of
realized what it was.
separated from the sprint, and that was about it. And everyone just kind of calmed
Yeah,
right on
no one
down. It looks
panicked,
like.
though. If you
No.
start seeing those orange numbers popping, that would have me saying, oh, man. But all in all, these guys have weathered the storm, haven't they? They've made a couple trips up the leg snapper now. I think that we will see some big plays, some heroic rides being made, but now a little early with still 30K and 3 more trips up the snapper. We're going to jump back in though with our C3s. They have a little bit less, 36 kilometers of racing out here, 4 laps today in Innsbruck.
It's gonna be Teselius on the front now, and
He's in
Carl is-
fuego today, Carl.
yeah,
Carl's a legend.
he definitely is.
So were you saying that Carl watched World of Zwift and was agreeing with your assessment of
Well,
how
I don't
you
know if
break
he
this
was
race
he
course
was
down?
he was just saying, okay, we're gonna. He watched this morning as well with me and Anna, and saw how
Oh,
things played out, and he was saying, okay, we're gonna try and make it happen, and a little bit of. There was actually a lot of people in the chat, well, a few people in the chat, and they were saying, okay, Carl, we know exactly what your plan is now. So he kind of tipped off the competition a little bit too.
it's funny. So, I guess it's fair to say they were racing aggressively this morning.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And
Yeah,
so
super
it's the Swedes have clearly been up to the same tricks, no doubt about it. Although this is Carl that we're in with right now here in the white jersey and the blue shorts. That's the Swedish Swifters, very popular, a well-represented team in the world of esports. But it looks to me like, I'm not saying that it backfired because it didn't. They've done a good job of breaking this group down out of that 89 starters, but I don't feel like they're applying the pressure right now. Seems like they maybe are moving into the next phase of this operation. Well,
Yeah,
they're
it looks
still
like
on the
it's
front, aren't they?
calming down a
And
little
as I
bit,
say
but
that, they're clearly
well, we're
watching the broadcast.
yeah,
Hey, now
1.3 here, 1.2. Doesn't look like they're really on the attack. Setting up most likely for the sprint points here in just a moment. Peakman making his way toward the front. Nice little bike setup there coming from Peakman. That's what I'd be choosing. The Venge with the 858 out there. Off the map rider kit to the front. And that's gonna be Valint. No. Looking to lead people out, it looks like. It's Electric Spirit with a Burrito power up. I think that's just to hang on at this point, but it's going to be Gold from SDRT on the attack with the arrow, getting the jump, but Olsen's coming fast. Will he come through? 10 watts per kilogram, trying to match, now into 11. I think Olsen's going to get the better of him. Right at the line, it looks like just nipped, and that will be for the sprint points. They've got another 10K to go, 10K to go out here. And it looks like a little bit of separation actually here.
do they?
Interesting
Yeah,
enough.
do they want to roll with this? Taking
Yeah,
a look
2
at the Swedish
seconds.
team. This is a big moment right now, actually. So through the middle part of the race, well through the middle part of the race for this category, this might be it, Nathan. They might be all in. It certainly looks like it. I think you've identified exactly. So let's see what we've got. Swedish Swifters, though, with some company here. Is that Smith, Team Type 1 up there, the yellow jersey on the concept yellow bike?
Yeah, are
Or
they going to go
gold?
with it?
Gold,
It looks
gold,
like.
gold.
They
I'm thinking that
calmed
CRCA
down.
rider that we're looking at.
So what's interesting is the way that they're calming down, but there's still they're still strung out a little bit. So nobody's they're all trusting it's going to come right back together. It's really a perfect moment if somebody wants to do something. Looks like they're not too interested though. It's going to be 1 to go in just a moment. And a little bit of a burrito power up though, as we do see Smith maybe just getting rid of that.
That's getting rid of it,
Yeah,
100%.
it's gonna
I
be
think,
extra
you're seeing them
gimmings.
all
Yeah,
pop now.
yeah, and they're just
I
waiting for
think
that next one to come across the line. They're looking for some arrows, in my opinion.
100%. The burrito power up has a minimal usage, whereas that arrow power up could be the difference maker out here. So, absolutely, just jettisoning extra burritos right now as we.
It's to attract the crowd. They're gonna attract the
Yeah,
crowd to just get rid of all the
don't feed
burritos
the
out there.
animals. I'm sure there's plenty of ducks in Innsbruck that are having a field day. But here's our front group. That's Smith, the team type 1 rider we were talking about. So, that was what you'd call a moment out there. But this is it, the vanguard out here for our C3 men, or C3s, I should say.
I'm gonna head back on over to the ones now. It is apologies, guys. It will be in miles on this side. Usually we do have it in kilometers, but there was a little swap up on the back end here, and I can't get it changed at the moment. So 18.4. They have a lap and a half to go. What's 45 over to miles, Dave? Can you do the math real quick in your head?
Well, 45K in miles would be 27.
Woo, Dave is good. It's 27.9. That's pretty good, Dave. Nice.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Nice job. So they're gonna have another what looks to be 9 miles to go out on course, lap and a half. Bang Anderson, he's taking the bottom to top approach here, and he's got 5
He's
seconds.
taking your playbook. No, absolutely. So yeah, this is it. I completely agree, Nathan. And this is where I'm with you. It's so exciting. It's really what racing is all about. Takes a lot of courage. It doesn't always win, right? Which isn't always fun or sexy. That's for sure. I mean, controlling a race for a bunch sprint is not really that cool, is it? I mean, it's something that it's effective. And it's a technique that gets played out time and time again. But this is cool. A solo rider hitting out on his own. And again, we'll call it, a lap and a half. But I think more importantly, it's 2 trips up the leg snapper. And this is a brave move. That gap at 6 seconds, it's legit. I think maybe having 1 or 2 riders up there maybe going to be the difference. But how many times have I been proven wrong here as well? Nathan, this is where, I mean, you got to love seeing this.
He looks like he's shutting it down because of how close he is. Yeah. But I love it.
So I love it.
It was a good move.
Time.
It was a good move.
Yep.
It was a good move. But there is reality that I think he's looking forward to leg snapper, and it wasn't quite enough to really.
Well, I think he couldn't get anyone to go with him, is actually my thought.
That's a good point. You're right. That's actually what he needed, was somebody to come with him. That's actually what he needed. If he would have had a rider or two, but just didn't end up working out there for him. That's a great point. And if he would have, perhaps
and I think
in a very different situation.
It's just it's a psychological battle out there. I mean, a lot of other riders are like, I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy, Mads. So, crazy like a fox sometimes.
Ballum's coming in with this here. Nathan, please explain racing for points versus for the win. Why would anyone want to race for the points? So it's a competition within the competition. A lot of times, and one thing that I've heard often from WTRL actually on that front, and Martin being more of a sprinter and being a rider who might not be there at the finish line a lot of times, he really enjoys the competitions within the competition, something for him to go for. And so it's one of those situations where, well, if you want something to go for within the competition, then still get across the line, you can go for that and win the fastest through segment as well as first across the line for the points. It's just an extra, and it is quote unquote redeemable. It isn't like you go and you redeem it on their website by going there and activating it, but you can go to the website and it does something, and you see that you won that competition on that leaderboard. So I would say that's as close as getting the redeem for it. So I enjoy that part where everybody's got something a part to play. No Mellensteins, though. No
Mellensteins. Hey, this is where it gets steep and brutal, Nathan. Turning the screws right now. This is, again, we're in miles, not kilometers, right? So this is the penultimate trip up the leg snapper. You can see these guys, one rider getting shown the back door exit from through the gift shop, but everybody else is going to hang right in there.
It looks like
That's staying right
Juiced
near the
is
front.
really putting a hammer down here. And that is going to almost cause a split, but didn't whittle anything down really. I think it put some people, though, definitely on the back foot with
And to his credit, also the riders, Nathan, at the middle part or the back of this group, they did just as much work. There was no advantage or disadvantage to any rider in that front group that time up leg snapper. Everybody was going to have to pedal their bike up the climb. The draft pretty insignificant when you're going up an 8% grade, and everybody's going to be hurting. This is not fun for anyone. Well, maybe it is fun. I shouldn't say that.
The only real difference in those sections is, I mean, you know, that extra 2 watts per kilogram or something to be attacking on the front versus maybe you saved 1 watt per kilogram and you rolled down. That's the only advantage that maybe you could get through there. But yeah, it's a pretty evenly matched. Now, you do burn a match, so to get that couple of seconds, the question is, was it worth it? You know, did it break people off?
Though,
you know,
maybe a little split happens a third of the way, 2/3 of the way through the group, and you don't have to be involved in closing a gap down because you're well positioned. So those watts you burnt staying near the front end up saving you watts a couple minutes later.
Yeah, it's always, I always question myself, like, all right, is this worth it right now? am I wasting any energy at all? A little bit of a kick here. Balenci's going to hold on, it looks like.
See, and I think because of your race, yeah. Well, see, and these guys love sprinting. That's another reason why these points, it might not always be the points per se or the redeemability of them, but these guys love throwing down. And the points are sort of the ends and the means, if you know what I mean. The points are there just to keep score, but these guys love to sprint.
Just to keep them moving, just to keep
track. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I love it. And you can see that they're going for it. So that's a good sign. They don't go for it if they don't care.
I wonder if anyone's going to use the roll-through effect here. Here's the downhill.
Not really. It looks like everyone's now pretty conservative, right?
Yeah, calming right on down, it looks like. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to take that speed through into the calmer section where everybody kind of just goes, okay, leg snapper done, sprint done, wait up for the next section. So we are about to hit that little 1%.
So we were talking about Gareth Jost. That's Estonia, right? I don't think Martin is with us today, but I believe that blue and black flag is Estonian.
He does need to confirm any countries and whether they are valid. So.
we're not allowed to freelance anymore.
Our WTRL controls a lot more in the world than anyone has ever understood.
Yeah, well, and I think we've proven we don't have enough responsibility to freelance the flags. Dimmy van der Vingerden, I know that's Belgium, and he's been fantastic today. This GFTBE team, Nathan, BE, obviously Belgium, but I'm not sure what the GFT stands for, but we're going to hear more about them. And Dimmy is a super strong rider. It looks like we've got 2 very similar races going on with the C1s and C3s. Both had a selection made the first lap, and then it's been pretty much status quo out there. This should be, I'm guessing, Nathan, we're in with the C3s. We're not guessing. Yeah. This is the C3s, isn't it?
Jumping back in with them, this is their final time over the top of the leg snapper, actually, as they make their
This is where it goes ballistic. This should go ballistic.
Look at SZ. Look at SZ.
They're all over it.
I mean, they're just smashing it on the front here, trying to make something happen here. And it is 3 riders getting the draft, it looks like, off the Carl Thesalius right now. And they are doing everything they can to... Oh, there's actually a chase group coming back, though. Look at this. 15 seconds.
Well, these are
a little bit too much, though. It's 15, 17 is too much. But they're in sight, though. I mean, they cannot...
That's quite impressive.
Sit around on the front end of this race here at this point. A little bit of attack now over the top of Thesalius and the rest, actually. Balint went halfway through, and that is that go moment. 5 seconds. He's got an arrow over the top. That is a great move, actually. Get into that super tuck quickly. There it is.
I feel like that's a huge, huge advantage. I don't know that they bring Peter back today. This is the Hungarian rider that has been standing out. I like his chances, Nathan. So let's call it 3K to go. A little more, but a lot of this is going to be flat out flying. Let's see this roller coaster sector here, some up, some down. This is where he's got to hold on. He's still holding 6 seconds, make it 5-ish here. This is a big effort. This is heroic. Can he do it? I love it. Here we go. Our first winner, out of European East now, our C3 men, Peter Balint, the Hungarian. A serious solo attack late in the race. Nathan, he's adding a little bit of time right now. This guy's a superstar.
We saw earlier this morning, actually, in the C3s, a very similar move by Kay Allen. And
he got caught. Didn't you say that just at the line? Was that the story?
I believe Allen stayed away.
Okay.
barely stayed away.
I think
exactly
Peter
like
stays
this
away.
because look at what Gibbings is doing here. But it's only 3 watts per kilogram. And they started to sleep on it a little bit because they weren't fully committed bringing it back. But because SZ is in here, and now this sprint might be the impetus to actually to bring this back. And it's going to whittle down that lead, but they might sit up afterwards. That's the thing. Wall back
I don't
here.
think
now
so.
Across.
Yeah, I have the feeling this is a lot more than just a sprint. I think this continues on. They are going to make the catch. Shows you how hard it is to hold off these monsters here. This should blow things up.
ZRG
what a finale we're going to be
Schumann
treated to.
sees that this is a threat here at this point. He's got 4 now to Celius. He's not happy. Oh, man. The Hungarian says crap. And is like, I've been caught here at this point. And
it's still not over, though. I mean, there's going to be a tiny bit of regrouping to make this hard right-hand turn. Now, see how they want to play this one.
There may be a counter here at this point from a long ways to go. This is exactly where, right after this, is exactly where Daz Carter actually went, about 800 meters to go, and was able to win this morning off of that move. We'll see if we can make this happen. Real quickly, I do want to highlight, as we'll come right back, Mads Bang Anderson and Seldernick went off the front, just coming through the lap finish banner, through the downtown section, and then now they're hitting that 2%. We have to watch and see if they do more than the other riders over the top of this 1-2%, actually. That's going to be the question. Are they going to get brought back here? Because if they can extend their lead out to 10 to 15, but it looks like it's getting brought right back in, actually. They are not having it when it comes to Bang and Seldernick off the front. 5 seconds and getting shut right on down. You can see they've actually given up the ghost a little bit, it looks like. So we'll come right back to that in just a moment. They are on their final lap in the East here for the European East. Now it is going to be an early attack.
Here we go. This
Smith,
is the attack.
C3s.
Yep, that we've been talking about.
There's your burrito, too. There's your burrito, Dave. He's doing it exactly as you called. Schumann, though, coming over the top. Arrow power up, Dave.
And this is it. Into the final few meters. It's going to be every man for himself. The small group splinters here. And it looks like G Coach from IFBB, Pro Bodybuilder, flexing now. And that's going to be enough. So on this finale, the Canadian is going to get it done. Plays his cards perfectly there. Is able to sit back in the group, let some other riders burn their torch at a little bit too high of a burn rate, and holding on. So G Coach for the win out of the C3s.
And as you can see, the way that this is coming in shows you how much of a race of attrition it is, right? I mean, just to be able to go from a pack like that was about 400 meters, I would say, right? From way out. You couldn't even really see the finish line at that point when he went. And it's one of these long, drawn-out sprints. You don't have to wait for the final snap to the line. It's a little more than just neuromuscular.
Well, the rider who's done, as I was talking about throughout the race there, the guy who did the least, and it was in that front group. I mean, we didn't see that name once. There was not one attack from G Coach out there. Stayed in that group, stayed quiet, saved it up for one big surge when the time was right. That's a well-timed win there for in our C3 group. Going back in now with the pretty good-sized group that we've got here. Everything that had gone up the road, a couple of attacks from Mads Anderson, but that has been brought back into the fold. Although Anderson remains a dangerous rider in the green jersey for the PO Auto team. These are our A's now. It's miles, not kilometers. So they're into the last ronde, the Rund am Innsbruck, now coming into its final. Big group.
Yeah, actually a little bit larger than most that we've seen so far. So a lot of riders able to hold on. A little bit of a burrito power up being used there, and actually two of them. Most likely just getting rid of them because they know. Well, actually, this looks like an attack actually from Weekly. 4.2 on the front there. One thing about the burrito here is not a bad time to use it necessarily if you are looking for a different power up. You know, using the burrito though on the bottom of the other side of the leg snapper, maybe just a little bit better section because a lot of riders may be struggling to get it if there is a counter going into the sprint section, not giving anybody any kind of a draft. But now onto the attack, it is going to be Seldenrick, the Dutchman from WLC. We need to get off of Nathan's avatar. And it's going to be SZ, though, with Ericsson on the front, pushing 8 watts per kilogram. It's really those 10 to 12s that are serious attacks amongst these boys. Not sure they're even going to have that left, though, as we're back in with Vanden Wingaren. As he's on the attack with 9 watts per kilogram, trying to break it up as much as he possibly can. Another burrito power up there coming in from, looks like that's going to be Matten.
Not only
DC.
not going to break it up, but not even going to make any splits in this group. So everybody's going to be in contention. Just a couple riders there.
Yeah,
but they'll
ODZ Crack and
scoot right back
Mateus
in.
here. The one woman who has made this front group time and time again over the top. She needs to get on right now, right there. Oh, can she finish with the lead group? It'd be amazing. 5 watts per kilogram, 189 beats per minute right now. An amazing ride here from thru in this C1s, but it looks like they might be gone. This little bump right here, she may be able to come across. They are rolling pretty fast at the front, though.
They're going to be preparing now. This is where you start wondering who's going to explode. I wouldn't be too surprised if we do see another attack out of this group into the final K. Nathan, as you said, a lot of times you can look at the previous races during the day on the same course and get a feel for how things are going to play out. And I would expect there's a good rider to look at there near the front. We've been talking about Anderson quite a bit, but Schultes is certainly one of the strong men in this group. Gareth Just as well.
The ladies in this crew, super strong. Teresa Daviat, Ria Mobs, and Maud Elaine Leroux. Maud, now only about 7 seconds back from this lead group, is hung on for 4.5 laps at this point. Huge shout out to her. Level 50 Zwifter coming out of South Africa. And actually has been super active racing the Premier League South Africa Community Sprint Series. So really cool to see. Racing that super consistently has been what she's been up to, and then jumping into this Classics race for the first time. Bang now on the attack, looking for some points and maybe a split even through here.
Yeah, I think this has got to be a play for the end of the race as the Danish rider there. They're going to cover that one, as that will be Balenciaga there. And it looks like there is Gareth Just. It's all back together, though. So hey, they're not giving any leash at all, which is not a surprise. Nobody wants to play around with having to chase back a couple of seconds, because this is it into the grand finale for our C1 men now, or C1s, I should say. Completely a mixed group today.
Yeah, about a K to go here at this point. And this is the last few meters, unless it's going to be just completely pure sprinter's delight. You could see someone try and make a move off the front. But with so many riders here, I'm not sure that that's going to work. You know, the only times we've seen it work is probably a much more whittled down pack, and there's a lot of strength still left in here. So it'd have to be a pretty brave move at this point to try and make a go. I'd probably be sitting and waiting for that final kick to the line.
Well, you have to look at John Wennermy, the Swedish rider. Actually, I would think that he's the biggest danger man that you can see the Swedes amassing near the front right now, that white and blue jersey.
Yeah, John Worm, huge sprint off of him. Juiced also, though, from BL13. They could go with some back-to-back wins here on the broadcast, as they did have
Grant
Daz
Womack,
win this
Nathan?
morning. Grant as well from
Womack?
BL13. Yeah, they
Yeah.
both have big sprints, so watch out for this BL13 crowd. They've got two up here
There's
to make some moves.
Boy, if you're a sprinter, you don't get many shots like this one. All in all, in esports, this is a huge group. 45K, make it 44 so far in the bank, as everybody right now just setting up for one big supernova of an effort. And I think we're seeing our first rider going off of the front there. There it is. This is going to be Roy Arts here.
Arts with a little bit of a gap here. Worm now coming through with an arrow
John,
power up. I
no,
think
look at
Worm.
Worm.
Oh, yeah, huge watts here from Worm. 15 watts per kilogram. And he did exactly as you said there, Dave. I think we saw him with his nose in the wind early on. Bang Anderson for second. It's going to be Arts for third. But you said it, and it was spot on, Dave. John saved up, and then was able to grab that W pretty decisively, actually. There, it didn't even. I mean, it looked almost like a little bit of a cakewalk there for him at a moment.
You know, we run this race again next week, though, Nathan, and Anderson, going back to agree with you, could win it solo, right? You just never know. You really don't. That's why we actually have them race instead of just guessing.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a lot more fun to have them actually race, isn't it? Well, that's fantastic. We got a lot of racing ahead of us here, but yeah, I agree. I see the comments popping up. That was great racing out there today. It had everything that you're looking for: a challenging course, a strong group, and to be honest, the guys were pretty attentive out here today. A lot of respect being shown for competitors, with nobody wanting to play around. I think the biggest advantage that we saw was about 6 seconds out there. If we saw a breakaway larger than 6 seconds, I missed it.
To see if we can find. We're gonna look to try and grab some results as the riders are cooling down. No chatter. What's interesting is I feel like there's a lot more. The European crowd is a little more serious. like the NZ crowd was like all kinds of like super chatty and kind of messing with each other and kind of know each other. I think a little bit more too, maybe.
I'm also guessing that there's so many different languages, right?
True,
that not
true.
everyone speaks English, and maybe, you know, the Finnish guys don't know what to say to the Basque writers. They just don't share a common alphabet, basically. Let's see how many flags we can get up here. Doing pretty well. There's our first duplicate.
That's
Yeah.
a really great point.
So John getting it done today. And see, it's 3.9 watts per kilo. He's right in the middle there. Few riders with a little more, few riders with a little bit less. But John Vandermeer taking the win for the Swedish Swifters today. They played their cards well. Anderson silver, Ertz for bronze, Just for fourth, Tunanen for fifth, Busain for sixth, Eriksson seventh, Van der Vingerden for eighth, Bagden ninth, and Schultes rounds out our top to the C1s in Eastern Europe for the Rund am Innsbruck. Our classics continue. I'll throw it back to you, Nathan. She had quite a ride today.
4.7 watts per kilogram. LaRue, absolutely amazing ride. Big shout out to her. And
yeah, that's a
she
lot of
made
work.
It with the lead group. Almost made it with the lead group there, actually. So that's in amongst the mainly with the boys. So in with the C3s, Eastern Europe. You see Doucette now taking it down with Valent there for second. Schumann followed up by Peakman. It's gonna be Miller, Gibbings, Wallback to Celius and Olsen. SZ, they made a lot of moves, but it ended up not paying off for them as Smith came across for 10th. In with the women, it was going to be Siegel, followed up by Late, and then Hybert for the top three. In with the lead ladies there for the C3s. Well, Dave, we're going to take a quick break. We got about 10 minutes uh, quick break, everybody. 10 minutes to the start of the next stream. So we'll be back in with you in just a few minutes for the Central Europe long stream out here today. We'll be here for another couple of hours. We cover Central as well as Western. Don't go anywhere. See you in about 5 to 10. Well, and we're back with the Zwift Classics race number 6. We're out on the random Innsbruck for 5 laps and 4 laps, respectively, across the C1s and the C3s. Nathan Garrett, Dave Toll, and Dave. We just saw it play out a couple of different ways. Well, throughout the day we have, but this Eastern Europe, it came down to a race of attrition type sprint. It was not a pure sprinter sprint. It wasn't just to the line, that last little nip between a lead out train and, it wasn't the 200
Yeah.
meter kick, right? You saw this, like the leg snapper and the course has done a lot of damage. And it's these 500, 400 meter to go amongst the Europeans, it seems, is really being the moves that are winning on the day, because everyone's just done after so many kicks. It seems like leg snapper followed up by the sprints immediately afterwards.
Yeah, I really think it speaks to a world championship course. Uh, Bike racing is never going to be simple, but in a lot of cases, being the best sprinter left in the group that goes to the line is the name of the game. And it seems like this course really features that type of rider, the rider that understands that you're going to have to make some big efforts, but the riders that try to split the race up too much end up with being, I don't know, one match short is a good way to put it, in that final sprint. So fortune favors the bold, but not too bold. And that's really a fine line. And that's what bike racing is so fun for helping us find out. But the leg snapper is, I guess it's interesting, Nathan. It makes the first selection, and then things seem to find a rhythm out here. It's long enough and hard enough that nobody wants to just go bananas. You can't just attack on lap one and expect to hold on alone. I thought that our assessment of that Anderson attack, Mads Bang Anderson, the Danish rider on PO Auto who attacked, that was probably the most significant attack. If he could find 2 riders who wanted to go with him and commit to the same level of effort, it might have worked. But no one wanted to play those cards. And ultimately, that's bike racing, as they say. But this course is awesome. I'm a big fan.
Go ahead and jump on in with the start of the race for the C1s in in Central. See who's all showing up out here today. We do have some coalition riders. It looks like, as well as the USA Cycling Guidry showing up on the day. Looker is here for No Pins R3R. Good to see
Wow.
Matt Looker. It's going to be a big day with him. Larson from PO Auto. So PO Auto also showing up here. Laud now to the front there from Coalition, as you can see. R3R Dev, Gen Z. Jay Adam from Coalition. The BZR Eagles are in the house as well. NZ Bro is showing up, actually, it looks like. So,
Yep.
and with Kay Gray, who is also a rider that we saw last week, really making some moves as well.
You know, Nathan, I have become a huge fan of Hassan Yassim, the Irish rider, who is going to be a massive threat. I love the zigzag technique on the front, try to confuse everybody else there. But Joachim Lisan, the PO Auto Ceramic Speed rider, is up for a throwdown. I don't know if John is back. Our winner of the last race is registered for this race. Do you see John Wennerme's name there, Nathan? As we roll through again, group huge. This is awesome to see. Really makes me feel like we're coming back into our groove as far as esports racing goes. When you look at a field like we have Vicky Nealon, right? I'm assuming that's V Nealon that we've got
It's
here.
going to
This is
be
not a men's race; it's mixed.
yeah, interesting enough. We're gonna see. We're looking to see if we can highlight her out here today. But yeah, Vicky,
Legend.
definitely in here with the high no kit that you can see there. So good to
There
see.
it is. Yeah. Well, we're big fans of Vicky Nealon, and she is, well, I mean, she's such a strong rider that sang tucked right in this group. I'll expect to hear her name making the final group out here today.
Looks like Langham here also from WLC. Wahoo Lacole, 185 beats per minute. Really, uh, super high heart rate at this point. So that's gonna be the 2 ladies I think that have made the lead groups. So Haigie's in here as well. Excuse me. So there is at least 3 women that have made the initial kicks out on course here. We'll see how things go over the top of the leg snapper and how that starts to play out. Vicky here being really smart, making her way right to the front, make sure that anything that starts
So
to make any moves, she is a part of and able to get any draft that's needed out on course.
you know what else? This is a great example of sag climbing, Nathan. You position yourself at the front of the group before the climb, and it's actually a few K away here, but you have a very nice, like, 'cause you know that at least 40 riders in this group, I would say. Again, it's all an estimation, but in my mind, if I'm in the first 40 going over the top of leg snapper on lap one, I should be in pretty good shape.
That's a
So
great point.
start,
Making your way to the front, but not on the front, right before the leg
yeah,
snapper is
exactly.
what you're looking to do.
Exactly. And then if I'm not feeling awesome and I slide back 20 places, I'm still in the front group.
Yes, same
Whereas if I
here.
start that climb at the back, all of a sudden I might be in a bit of trouble there. So just a little bit of a, I don't know, pro tip, pro technique for getting through if you don't have the great legs to start the race, because there are going to be riders, Nathan, that feel better as the race goes on out here.
There's
I'm sure
a
you,
little bit of in-game chatter happening here. Little
I was
drama,
missing.
drama alert. Little bit of
What
drama
was
alert
going,
here. You're
it looked like
seeing the
Hassan was
others
involved.
having a little bit of chat here. So we'll see how things end up playing out. But the rider there, I think he's been winning a lot. You know, you get attention when you're winning a lot. So we'll see how it plays out on the day and
As they
between the riders as they
as they say in Belgium, Nathan, that the tall tree gets the wind, right? So when you stick your head up above the rest, get a little more blowback. That's well, they're going to make this a tough race, no doubt about it. This first trip up the leg snapper, Nathan, I guess we should describe the climb for folks, the featured climb of this course here. This is a beauty. It really is. Leg snapper, not the steepest nor the longest climb, but it has an impact. This is the course that we're looking at right now. You can see that over the course, so different distances, the C1s are going to be doing 45 kilometers or 5 laps. So that's 5 trips up the leg snapper where just almost all of that vertical gain comes at you. It's body blow after body blow, to be honest. But the first lap and the last lap might be the very worst because they try to do damage. I mean, they take out that 10-kilogram sledgehammer and just wail away. On the first lap, typically you'll see this group. I don't know. It's hard to say. There's a lot of depth in this field, but split maybe not in half, but you're going to see 20 riders, 20-ish riders there or thereabouts in trouble out here in another
100%,
couple
Dave.
K.
Sorry about that, Dave's had just for a moment there. Needed to silence the mic, but heading to the front, it looks like Serhage doing exactly what you had said, and they're about to hit that leg snap. But I have to agree with you. Probably going to split a third to fourth of the field off the back amongst these C1s. What's going to be interesting for me amongst the ladies is who's able to position themselves well and make it over the top. A lot of times it's a race of meters for them as to whether or not they make the lead group, and it's going to be a big deal if you're looking to take down the Evil Rider, Serhage, or Vicky Nealon against each other. There was the Wahoo Lacole rider as well that was in still. I think she's actually made her way to the front here, as that's going to be the is it Langham, I believe, that's still made this front group. So really great to see. But now on the front, it's going to be fairly calm. Still nobody throwing any orange numbers. Playing it pretty smart, it looks like so far. VCRT, though, with the paw. Now 6.0 on the front. 176 beats per minute. Here come the orange numbers there. Alexander there. WLC, the first one to move. And 11 watts per kilogram is no joke. On that Tron bike, up and out of the saddle now. 41 kilometers per hour on an 8% uphill gradient. Moeller there from Canyon coming across. Dida. And these are the moves here, Dave. And I think they want to make a serious split this first round.
Wahoo Lacole, that's Johnny Alexander, the machine on the front. And you can't lose with this move, Nathan. I mean, this speaks to what we were both talking about here. As, yeah, he's not going to win the race, but he's going to do some serious damage at the back of this group, and he's going to be nicely ensconced into whatever remains, as there's going to be bodies laying all over the place after this effort, coming up leg snapper for the first time there. So that was, I believe, Mueller, the South African I'm going to have to check on that because this is going to have everybody, all hands on deck at this moment. That's the Canyon Rider Mueller, and it is South Africa. They're seeing the flag right now. Boy, Nathan, you got to be loving this. This would have Nathan Guerra written all over it as far as trying to split this group. We said that maybe, or I was estimating maybe a quarter of the riders. It might be even more than that, although you can see a bulk of the meat and potatoes of this group still tucked into a pretty good sized peloton right there. As a matter of fact, Mueller going to come back into that group. Surprising number of riders able to more than hold their own out there, Nathan. But we still have one man off the front, I believe, just dangling off the front is going to be Johnny Alexander of Wahoo Lacole.
Gringo from No Pins R3R trying to get back on terms. This is going to be the split here, as you can see. Top
Yikes.
38 or
Never
so.
fun.
And,
yeah, this group has a fighting chance.
I didn't notice Gamps was in here as well. Luis was kind of hiding. She's following the wheel of Vicky, it looks like, to make sure she just marks her. So it's going to be Luis Gamps versus Vicky Nealon out here today.
I don't have a crystal ball, Nathan, but I'm going to guess that this group here, the dozen or so riders, are able to rejoin. Especially, you can see that the finish arch, or the sprint arch right there, it doesn't look like it's being too hotly contested. I think these riders get a chance to live another day out here. We'll see. That gap's a little larger than this perspective makes it look like they're right there. That's still some work, and I think that's going to be Vicky Nealon, who's going to go out on her own, not bring the whole group with her. Unbelievably savvy, super talent. Vicky Nealon, one of the stars of the Zwift Racing League, so clearly she's got some good form right now.
Going out to 5 seconds now, 4.5 watts per kilogram. I think that group's going to continue to roll. So
I thought they'd get back in there, Nathan. I might be wrong, I hate to say.
7 seconds now. It's just this downhill section right here with this lead group. Now, if they sit up and start looking at each other, then sure, and they might just do that. But it depends on what the plan is from a lot of the top riders here. You know,
sadly, well, esports, there's not a lot of that, is there, Nathan? I mean, it happens for sure, but generally they just keep grinding on.
3.3, as you can see here, 3.8. So might be just enough. Now, if the riders behind here really make an effort, you can see they're bringing things back. As you can see here, Gringo now 6 watts per kilogram, 7 watts per kilogram, really wants to make something happen. Nealon's not going to get involved with that. I think maybe just at limit and looking for more of a steady effort. So it looks like these two with Better and Gringo looking to go across. They are going to make it, I believe, because they are calming down up ahead. 6 watts per kilogram. It's within striking distance. If Better puts a little bit of work in, if he can, though, that's the question. They didn't fall off because they were feeling good at that moment, but it is going to happen. Nice work by Gringo. Those are the only two I think that are going to come across. I don't think there's any matches behind them to really make something happen. Now this group, though, might slow way down in just a moment. They may go, okay, that's enough is enough. On the front, though, you do see things stringing here a little bit, Dave, and that usually means the speeds are high.
It actually speaks to both. Some riders are hoping to back off, and other riders are saying, no, we're going to keep soldiering on, which definitely doesn't benefit that group. You can see them just dangling off of the back. But that was pretty evident there, Nathan, that the two strongest riders in that group were able to bridge across and rejoin our front group where other riders are still fighting here now. It's really interesting when you watch. I mean, you do a great job with that in the production of covering that effort being made by that second group out here. Because it's still possible that 5 minutes from now, these guys really do sit up this front group and they rejoin. That's why you don't want to throw in the towel, but it's starting to look like they're pushing on. And the accelerator, not quite buried down on the floorboard, but it's close because this group's starting to string out here, telling me that they're lifting up the speed.
Going back, seeing, did they rejoin? No, it's still 8 seconds here, as you can see. Just enough, and it's
tantalizingly close.
It's so close, so incredibly close. Looking,
but so far too, right? I mean, that's the thing, right, Nathan? 8 seconds is exactly that. So close. If you've got the momentum and you're closing in on him, you feel great. But when you're just watching that sit at 8 and 9 seconds and you're making a huge effort, it is brutal because they're right there. But you can't do any more.
Now out to 9, and it continues on. The attacks are going off the front here, which tells me this is a motivated group, and it's going to continue to just keep the speeds high. I think because of these little attacks. Jumping in with our C3s, there has been a split. We did miss the initial split over the top of the leg snapper, but this is heading into lap number 2. Looks like Larry Martin, Hagen, as well as H. Andrea in a chase group. This group can definitely easily bring this back within 2 seconds now at this point, and I think that's going to end up making it a lead of about 32 riders here at this point or so. There is another group about 13 seconds back being led out by Peltola in the C3s for Central Europe at this point. Army Cycling involved at the back here, just looking to get a free ride back into the main group. One thing I did want to highlight, Wallback is back from Team SZ, so they're getting some double headers here, it looks like. We've also got Magnus here from Cryogen, who was involved in some racing earlier as well. Ingo here from SZ. SZ with quite the crowd
Peter
again, it looks like.
I'm wondering, is Peter's second place finisher, Peter Ballant, back for another race as well, coming from the Eastern Europe into the Central Europe? I'm looking at my Central Europe C3s. I don't see his name popping up. That silver medal effort might have been enough. This group doing 36 total kilometers of racing. That is 4 laps out here. One time already up this leg snapper. The feature climb, to say the least, out here today. Just enough to do some damage, give these riders something to work with out here. Nice to see huge fields taking the start today. 103, Nathan, taking the start in this group.
Ervik getting some TV time. That's a familiar name. As Norwegian rider here from Dirt Dad WP2. Liking the setup here from him. He's got the off the map, which almost matches the new dirt kit actually. Got some goggles on. I mean, this guy's got the
goggles are, yeah. A lot going on, a lot to unwrap there.
The Mavic yellow, I'm not too sure about there, but as far as fashion police go here, he's got the Dogma though with some.
It's funny, I can hear Anna Russell rubbing off on you now.
Yeah,
you sounded a little disgusted, a little disappointed. Classic Anna. You know,
the matching, there is some cool matching.
Not impressed.
The backwards cap. He kind of, he looks like a bug.
Yeah,
I'm liking it though. It's good. that part's good.
I think the all-time classic
shoes though, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. My all-time classic Anna line is not impressed. Not impressed. So we are looking at our front group here, about a third of the way in. It's so challenging right now for the riders that want to make a break move, because once you go over the top of the leg snapper, there's just so much real estate that's ideal for trying to chase you back that it's so discouraging out there. Soldiering on. Name of the game out here in esports.
The Eastern C1s is what we're in with right here, and it does look like Simon Nielsen, Stephen Brealey, lots of little chatter actually going on, interesting enough, as the Central Europe C1s are making their way around. Has a pretty large group still, hasn't split up too much. I was expecting actually a little bit more of a split in this crew, to be honest, but not enough just yet. So amongst the ladies out here, they are off the back still with the competition, though, between Louise Gamst from Toyota Cryo RDT and Vicky Nealon. But they're keeping it within 9 seconds, interesting enough. Dave, I was expecting this to go out a little bit more, but I think this next time up the snapper is going to extend that lead.
And it's funny because, yeah, well, going up the snapper, it's not like Vicky and Luisa, their watts per kilo are so high that, I mean, it's not over for this group. I feel like we're switching roles, Nathan, because a lot of times I just write off that once this split happens, I don't think about this group again.
If I was
And I'm
sitting in right here, though, Dave, if I was a rider who somehow found myself here, I would be trying to reserve as much as I could without it going out too far. Maybe take a couple little pulls and then go across as hard as I possibly could into the leg snapper. I would use the leg snapper for my bridge. That would be what
I
I would
would
try
too.
to do.
I completely agree with that because you're going to have to go up the leg snapper one way or another. And so if you can just go a little bit deeper than these guys are up there, I mean, this is your chance to get that separation and close that gap. So good luck to all of these riders. I love the fact that you keep your heart in the fight. And we've been talking about it, 9 seconds. It is not over. This front group, it gets tactical up here. You've been involved in that before too. I mean, it speaks of Wahoo Lacole. You can see that that jersey is going to become very, very familiar for fans of esports here. You're going to see a lot more of Wahoo Lacole in season 4 of the ZRL. But this is where, now, if you were sitting back there 9 seconds back, these guys really start to press. They're hitting hard right now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Nobody in that chase group having much over 8 watts per kilogram. That has something to do with most likely why it was dropped off. The front group's doing 9 to 10 on the front here. As
This is a big reality sandwich right now in the race. This is where you really find out who's got the legs.
That's a new one, Dave. We got a reality sandwich out on course.
That's the first time I've deployed the reality sandwich. Reality sandwich. It's not much fun to eat.
What kind of condiments? What's between the bread on a reality sandwich, Dave?
I think didn't OJ already prove that mustard, the spicy mustard, right? That was not. It burnt out his nasal cavity. There. This is Mueller, Nathan. So these guys are really having at it. This is a bit of a throwdown right now, but everybody able to hold their own here. Gloves off in Innsbruck. So hard to make a difference. This is why I love this course.
This time around, last lap, a little bit more excited. This time around, looks like he's calmed it down just a little bit. And,
so Nathan, Johnny Alexander that you're talking about, the Scottish rider there on Wahoo Lacole, I get it. I think that he wanted to be involved in splitting this group up. And now he moves into his next mode, which is trying to win this race. And that means he's made a big effort. He's done an opener out there. He knows he's got good legs today. He looks around. He sees he's got at least 2 teammates in this front group. Now it's time to move into conservative mode before going monster mode in the finale. That's my guess. Anyways, I like where the kids headed.
Great assessment for sure. There has a little bit of attack on the front.
Oh boy,
some sprint points. That is going to be Lyson. Not quite. It looks like Hagen from No Pins was able to take it down. Lyson there.
They're going for it.
Auto, the Danish rider. A little bit of a gap now at this point. This is a threat. These 2 riders, you get Dirt Vipers here and Lyson off the front. If they continue on, now Van He here from VCRT looking to come across as well. They do have a gap. It is calming down behind them, 23 meters. Now, the thing is on this downhill section, that group is going to snowball just a little bit of avalanche of speed.
And Franklin, Almeida. I mean, if these 3 would work together, this could be a break, Nathan.
But 2.7, you got to watch. Yeah, the watts per kilogram are they're not doing the watts per kilogram.
They're not doing it,
though. No.
Yeah, so nobody wants to take the risk, and I don't blame them. I mean, Franklin is one heck of a sprinter. Talking about the Brazilian rider.
You see what Alexander did right there? What he did right there? I personally would have just continued right on. Did you see how easy it was with that downhill? That's what I'm talking about. That section right there. Everyone slows down after the sprint, and they usually catch right there. It's a moment that most likely you're going to have this pack surging with speed. They're all going to go, like the top of a climb. Very similar. And then
the race,
as they all slow down and you're coming through at that speed, boom, I would hit it so hard right there, get an immediate gap.
As your director, then, this is going to be a learning moment. I would say, unless you're planning on attacking and trying to make a breakaway and going for the race win, why? Because you're going to burn some watts, but what's the point? You still got 3 laps of racing remaining. Unless you're planning on making that into an attack and a break, it's just going to come back together.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So calm it down, and make sure that you're not wasting too much energy on the front.
See, that's the challenge with someone who
John
loves to
didn't
race.
waste, John didn't waste too much energy. He did. It was a little bit, maybe just a little bit over effort. But I think that section is
Kind of
just so
reposition.
easy to roll through with the speed. That's the thing, is that section, you get a lot of free speed, and a lot of riders don't notice how much free speed you get, and immediately following that. And I've been trying to speak to this over and over again. That 1% gradient, I don't think people recognize how dangerous a false flat can actually be when you carry speed into it and the rest of the pack doesn't recognize it as a section where they need to press. False flats, the reason they're so dangerous is everyone thinks it's a flat. They think it's not a section where I need to press very much, and the pack is going to respond a lot later than they might otherwise. And so that section, I think, is just really, really crucial if somebody wants to make something happen. I guess maybe it's my own experience as well, and seeing what
or
Hopper's done in the
remember
past
that
there.
remember that for later in the race is also hey, if I do want to try to get a gap, this might be a place to do it. Not now, but file that away.
100%. Now, we do see, I'm going to just put this in the corner because some people taking a little bit of a note out of the playbook are going off the front actually through the in the C1s in the lower right hand corner. You can see there is a little bit of a break happening, so we'll get back into that, but that is going to be Kettering as well as RH. 2-second gap. They really gave it a go. Looks like it's going to come back though. But now in the sprint here amongst the C3s, Bugatti was making a move, and all brought back together here. As you can see, SZ, they've been extremely active though in both of these races, Central and Eastern here. SZ just making move after move. Lots of truck power ups, draft power being used. A little bit of a gap off the back
So
here.
this
Maybe
is our
wall back
C.
though. Interesting enough. So
This is our
after one race,
C.
done.
Okay. So
C3, yeah.
C3s
C3.
we're in with on right, and this is our front group that we're looking at. 36K or 4 laps of racing here. So pretty good sized group. This has consistently been the story of what we have seen is selections get made and then we settle into this rhythm. We'll see if anybody's got the courage to attack here, but right now, cooling their jets.
Yeah, it looks like it's calming right on down. I thought maybe some moves were going to be made there, but no go as they wait for 2 more laps to go. 2 more laps to go. Back in with the C1s, also calming right on down. Nobody's super interested in making any moves. I wonder how things are going here with the chase. It looks like the marking in the women's race continues to happen as Gamps versus Neelan is still out on course. Not too interested in chasing down the group up ahead because they're not racing that group up ahead, I don't believe. But we're going to get a free ride, it looks like, as Perry takes a couple pulls to bring back the top 40-ish in this race for the C1s right now. Langham here, this is 3rd place out on course. Wahoo Lacole rider, as she sits in about 55th place, and I think like 4th chase group out on course, looking to try and maybe bring back that group with Neelan and Gamst. They are only about 15-20 seconds up the road, and this group is surging. There is a pretty good number of riders, but I'm not sure that's going to be coming back kind of out of sight at this point. Actually, 42 seconds now at this point. So I think this group is gone.
So because these are AutoCat races, and I know that there have been a lot of changes that people may or may not be aware of. So the AutoCat system has ranked these women at the same level as the men that are all racing in this group. They start separately. Is that right? And then merge together?
They start in separate pens, yep, so that they are ranked.
So they're scored separately then
exactly.
by gender. But they're all so the auto. I guess the question then would be the AutoCat system. If it was unaware of gender would have ranked these women as the same as these men. That's why they're in this race.
And that's exactly what it did there is that there are two different systems. The system that puts them in a pen is Zwift's system. So when they sign up
Which
for
does
the
see
race,
gender that you've
exactly. But then
right.
when they use the AutoCat system, the recent changes made it so that they're just racing against riders that are of similar ability.
Regardless of gender, which is
Exactly.
pretty interesting. I mean, it's a real nice vote of confidence for Luis and Vicky, isn't it? That a
Hugely.
computer that is not biased, other than the metrics that it's been told that are performance based, has said you're in this super elite group of athletes that are mostly men.
Point out Zoe Langham here from Wahoo Cole. She's currently in third place, a little ways back from this group here with Nealon and Gamst. Riding for that Wahoo Cole. 31 seconds, actually bringing a little bit of time back.
Not
Was out
bad,
to
Zoe.
40.
Yeah.
Out to 40. She is from the United Kingdom. It looks like newer to the world of racing out on Zwift in the last year. Jumped on in right around pandemic time, May 15th of
She's
last year.
managing. She's managing almost 4 watts per kilo out here. Super strong athlete, Zoe Langham.
Very solid. Looks like just recently getting back into the racing scene out on Zwift. Last race, she did the British Cycling Crit Series on July 28th. Before that was back in May. So it looks like into August now, getting involved again. I think Wahoo Cole may be a part of that. And it's cool to see that she's in and amongst some of the top racers here and trying to chase this down. Only 30 seconds now. Interesting. We'll see. Luis though and Vicky, I think, are kind of, as you'd say, keeping their powder dry a little bit. They're sitting in and making sure that they're not taking too many pulls. A little bit of a kick off the front here from the DCR rider, actually. 4.8 watts per kilogram. Maybe some motivation to bring back that front group. Well, the front group with the ladies here.
All right.
Back in with our leaders, though. This is going to be the leaders of the C1s as they're 23K in. They still got about 20K to go and about to hit the leg snapper for the third time.
And we have a whole bunch of racing going on Tuesdays with our Zwift Classics. And this is the Rund am Innsbruck that we're in with. Now, yeah, there's a good look. You can see that we're well into the classic seasons now. Next week, we'll be heading to virtual Italy and Trofeo Bologna, and then wrapping things up with the London International on August 31st. But here today, Nathan, it's really pretty incredible to see, well, the numbers really going up. This most of the fields that we started in this European Central Wave, as we just wrapped up the Eastern, and then you were with APAC earlier in the day, but over 100 riders in a few of the fields that we've seen. The story of the day in all of the different categories. And again, it does get to be a lot to wrap your mind around, but we've got the C0s, the ones, the twos, the threes, all of these different categories that race in all of the different zones. And so today we've been jumping in with the C1s and C3s, and this is going to be Gary Mueller and the C1s. He's one of the strongmen on the Canyon team racing out of South Africa, and certainly a rider that draws a lot of water, gets a lot of attention, one of the strongest riders out here, Nathan. And it looks like creating a little bit of a moment right now.
Yeah, the Dirt Vipers here out of Canada really just rolled through. I mean, this rider,
they're just controlling.
he didn't really have to do a whole lot there. He just used the momentum of the pack, and you can see the grind here that ends up happening, that rotation, the churn that can happen in and amongst the pack, as regardless of you can put out a ton of speed toward the front, but that pack will just avalanche right on through, churn you to the back, and then you have to make another little bit of move. And the Dirt Vipers rider out of Canada is doing exactly that.
That's why the speed stays so high in these groups as well. With so many strong riders, they just keep doing that, going over the top, and unfortunately, it's just enough that that chase group won't have a chance to rejoin. gotta say, take a look, some pretty familiar names, but the Brazilian flag there, Franklin Almeida, is a big danger man. Going to be really tough to beat, Nathan. And I've noticed lately that he's been sitting up, finishing any race that he has a chance to sprint in. He's been sitting up on the podium. This is going to be Haugen again. No pins, R3R. One of their very strong riders. As these guys are going to be bringing it to the line here. Another one of our intermediate sprints.
Listen. Oh my
Go
gosh.
team, listen.
Wow. I mean, that was
Flying.
suddenly a 16 watts per kilogram. That was pretty. I mean, he came on like a lightning strike. Like, what is that? One of those situations where somebody's moving so much faster than everyone else, where you're just like, whoa, like,
wow,
grabs your attention immediately with how the speed difference.
So makes me wonder. Yeah, 17.6 watts per kilo is his 15-second power profile. That pretty much proves it, doesn't it? What you just saw there. I mean, 17.6. That's out of this world power. And we just witnessed it. It all adds up. Back together now. So we'll hit the reset button. And this is your front group now. They're getting down to it here. 385 meters of total climbing, and they're at 226 right now. But it's just the leg snapper over and over. And, you have to say that Lisand, the PO Auto rider, the Danish rider there, having no problem at all getting over. It only takes him about 15 seconds, Nathan, to get up the leg snapper. So,
yeah,
no big deal.
I think he's really
that kind of
really
power.
the danger man out here today. PO Auto. And I think this is a setup
Franklin?
for PO Auto.
Franklin and I mean, it's like Hassan Yassim, on a good day, he's right there as well. He makes a few more raw watts. He just weighs a little more.
In here still though? I'm not seeing him.
He is.
I'm not seeing an Irish flag here.
He was there just a few minutes ago. I think you're correct, though.
Jumping out of the race, he might not have looked to finish out there today. Not positive. So, interesting to see Ervik here. This is gonna be, I believe, Thomas.
That's a surprise. I'm actually
Thomas Ervik here. Solid rider, and he's also a rider who does a lot for the dirt team. I believe he's the graphic designer that makes a lot of our poster competitions. So great to see him out here participating and a great part of that team, not just when it comes to out there and racing, but also their organization and making a move. This is a split happening because of that push off the front here from Ervik. It's actually 4 seconds, and this is danger. This isn't coming back. This is too splintered, in my opinion. We'll see. Maybe not, but 8 watts per kilogram. BM Pro rider here, Schneemann, looking to get back on terms. 2 seconds back here. Wild and Beef. Now, 3 seconds. Will they press on up ahead? This is a rough moment here for some of these chasers.
Yeah, this is, we've seen this before now. A gap this large, it really comes down to willpower in that second group. And can they organize? Watch how 4 can quickly turn into 10, but it can also quickly turn into 0 as they rejoin the group. This next minute is where it all goes down, to tell you the truth. If they're going to get back into this group, they've got to do it right here and right now.
4 seconds.
Doesn't look like they're...
Not enough. Unless they sprint and come across, but I think that front group is also going to sprint, which is just going to cause even more of a gap.
Yeah, this might be another one of those situations, Nathan, where, I mean, it's only 4 seconds, so a strong rider might be able to get back, but not everybody making it back. We'll see.
That group is swelling back there, interesting enough. Gout now making a move, it looks like. And on the front, Arrow power up. Ingle coming through, though. It looks like Ingle from SZ timed things well, used the draft very well, and comes through with a solid point. First across the line.
Typically, that's bad news bears for the chase group to have a sprint like that. It really depends now. Do they carry through at all, or do they sit up? completely. And it looks like they're going to sit up for the most part. So let's see. This is really for that group dangling off the back. They might just have a crack at it. You can see the watts have come way down into the sub 3 watts per kilo. So everybody going to take a little bit of time to catch a breath. Either way, Nathan, we've said this before, but if you are having trouble at this point in the race and getting gapped off, odds are not great that you're going to be an impact racer in the finale. These are the riders that you certainly want to keep your eye on.
And we did see that Gregory Gout actually from Kerbati. We did highlight him last week as well. I'm loving the way that Zwift makes sure to get all the flags in game. I believe Pacific Islands, if I'm not incorrect, Kerbati. As Gout makes his way to the front 1.6, 2.6, and he's been involved in a lot of those sprints over and over again. So always good to see him. And a little bit of complaining going on here. A little bit of, come on, boys. As Cole says, take some polls. He really wants to bring this back. We are seeing Larry Martin now making his way to the front there with the aero power up. There are a few riders that do not want them to come back, most likely, that have made that lead group and suffered to do it, right? Dave, there is just a reality with how large that group is up there. Some riders have been riding wheels well and do not want some of the riders who are in and amongst this group to come back because they may have a better chance at taking them down. Maybe not for a podium in this chase group, but for a better placing than some of the riders who really burned some matches to make that front group.
Yeah, and you really, so when you do your analysis too, up in that front group, you realize that there's going to be some of the better sprinters that get caught in the second group. And that is a huge advantage for, I mean, as I said at the opening of the show, your goal really is to be on or be or on the team of the rider that is the best sprinter left in that front group. It's a big group that we've got on screen right now, though. Plenty of horsepower if they can organize things here.
100%. It looks like it is going to just barely be coming back. That lead group up there, I think, is large enough that they're not really interested in working together too much. You start asking
those
questions.
carts.
Well, if I go to the front and work with these guys, is it really going to pay off for me? Am I just wasting effort to set somebody else up? And a lot of times you end up with some infighting that allows a large group like this to chase back. Harmon from dirt, 4 seconds. Some interesting power-ups being used there pretty quickly, and I think that is going to help them in a system to get back on terms as well. Amongst the ladies here in the C3s, Andrea, is she going to be the number 1 rider right now out on course
Aeonian.
amongst this?
German on Aeonian there. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary.
Melanie Dobbs is in here as well. Dobbins, looks like. And then a little ways back is going to be Kat from High Peaks Evo. But it is Melanie Dobbins from TBR, the big ring, and Andrea Heinrich from the Aeonian team that are battling it out for first and second place amongst the women here in this C3s.
We're going to watch these two groups rejoin here right in front of your eyes. That's a good example of, well, there's looks to me like there's maybe even a few more riders in the second group than the first. Pretty even sized, actually, as you look at them here, but some motivation, keeping their head in the game. And it looks like we'll marry these two groups together.
Interesting enough. He's got a UCI license, this Andrea Heinrich, here on some podiums as well on her Strava. So this is a no-joke rider. She's wearing an Aeonian kit in real life on the podium, too, which is pretty cool to see. Always love to see the crossover between in real life.
Yeah, that's an interesting moment, right? When the in-game kit is replicated in real life for the first time. Usually you'd think it would go the other direction.
It's almost, for me, it's like...
That's a meta.
That for me is when it gets next level, because there's a virtual environment and virtual team that has created something in real life. You know, the reality of a real life.
Yeah.
The reality of a real life kit then being seen in game, it's like, okay, there's something in real life that has happened already that people were getting, but the power of connecting online that then came and created something out in the real world, that for me is a more powerful jump. because it says a
Well,
lot
hey,
about how close these people are and how now it's represented in the real world. I absolutely love that.
hey, I know that you saw some of that this summer at races like Toad, Tour of America's Dairyland, where, I mean, I can. Timmy Bauer is just one example of a person I'd never met in real life, who I met through virtual racing, who then I did meet in real life. And there's literally, wasn't that a real highlight this summer of finally being able to meet these people that we've enjoyed? They're really fantastic personalities online. And not one of them disappointed me either. I got to say, Nathan, of all the folks that we met, they all really, their in real life personalities were exactly what I expected they would be.
100%. It's been absolutely awesome seeing the
The
visibility
win was
in
so
real life.
cool. And I know that the Kristen Kolchinsky Dave Toll meets on World of Zwift is coming out next week. They wanted to polish up the editing and get it super spiffy, just like her jewelry.
A little bit of a gap here being formed on the second to last time up and over the top of
Well, I
the
tell
leg
you what,
snapper.
Nathan, right? You chase back in, and then they split the group again, and that's another reason why positioning yourself well makes a big difference in a race like this. Just always, if you can move up, go ahead and do it. It doesn't hurt. It's just make sure that when you're on the front, if you're pushing the wind and making the efforts, that you've got a reason for doing it. And these riders, it looks like they're going to get back in, Nathan, but that's no fun at all to find yourself in a small group just dangling off the back here. And this is going to be, as we look at it now, two different race distances. Our C1s are doing 5 laps, 4 laps for the C3s.
You can see that there is a threat here at this moment. Gray noticed it and shuts it down for everybody. 6.3. If you went to put that 6 watts per kilogram, Lacey there as well. So it wasn't a serious threat. It looks like there was the effort in. Everybody, they were biding their time, and I think they were playing as smart as they possibly could to see who actually wanted to put the work in at those moments. So it's always fun to see.
That's the name. That's that playing chicken there, Nathan, where if you're the rider that says, I'm not going to do that effort to close that gap down, and you can get someone else to do it, that's a match that you didn't have to burn. But the question becomes, what if they don't do it either and the gap goes out 3 more seconds? Then you burnt a match. Or you know what I'm
Or
saying?
you're all out of
You made the
matches,
mistake.
or the
Right,
book has to
exactly.
go and they're off the front and nobody's
Or you
bringing
don't
it
have any
back. I
matches.
mean,
Right,
it's a
yeah.
risk. It's a huge risk to take. I mean, if it goes out too
So
far
that's
at a certain
bluff.
point, it's unclosable. So
That's the poker player's bluff, right? Where it's like, I'm not going to do it, you do it. I'm not going to do it, you do it. You hear that a lot in racing. Someone either is going to have to do it and expose themselves a little bit, or we all lose out. That's what makes the sport so psychological. Like, who's going to
this
close
is one
this
of those
gap down?
situations right here.
Exactly.
After that sprint section, somebody let a wheel go, obviously. They're suffering.
And
Nobody's got it. Smalley, I
and the
think,
World
had
Elite
the effort.
Zwifter,
And
yep. Here's what you do. You say, you know what? How about I'll do it alone, and you guys can figure it out amongst yourselves, because this is I'll take care of mine. You worry about you. And I think that and then this will backfire on you as they chase you back. And bike racing's a beautiful thing, that's for sure. But it looks like this is going to be Kuipers, that one of the BZR riders that's going to try to rejoin, and will. He's got another Belgian, DePau, right with him there of the VCRT. They're all going to get back in. But again, Nathan, that wasn't exactly a fun experience there. And especially at this point, late in the race.
yeah, I mean,
You don't want to
186
be.
beats per minute right now. I mean, there's these guys are demolishing themselves. We see VCRT, BZR here with
Wow.
79 as well.
And
Just barely getting back on terms with one.
And
to
at the
go.
same time that you're doing that, there's a whole bunch of guys that are sitting right in the middle of this group, just breathing through their nose right now.
Barely working.
Barely working.
It's 100%. That's totally true. Now back into the leg snapper. Final time. C3s, as you can see here. Williams toward the front. AHDR. Schaff's there as well from Cryogen. We do have an attack, it looks like, from Larry Martin, trying to maybe get some initial ground or a fade climb for him from the ECC rider. I think that's more of what's going on here, just trying to get a little bit of distance and not necessarily attack. HP from the DBR team here now, 8.2. No, backing off a little bit. Actually, it's going to be the LEQP, actually, the Netherlands, trying to take over on the front. Bringval from the TTV Rhinos as well. D. Engel from SZ. He's been super aggressive on the day, following the wheel of Brignall from that Rhino team. Very well known amongst the WTRL TTT teams. Watch out for Brignall. Maybe going to be one of the favorites if he does get away. Number of riders here, Dave. It's splintering a little bit. Really strung out. You can see that straight line.
Yikes.
Gap might open up here, Dave. We might see a situation where it's 15 or so off the front. These little gaps are going to matter so much. Like right here with Balent, Gout. That's going to be it, I think. 57K. 57K.
We haven't seen it strung out like that all day long, Nathan. This was a decidedly different trip up the leg snapper, and let's see who survives. This is a big, big moment out here. And again, these guys have a ways to go. This is not their final trip up the leg snapper. They've got one more effort like that to make, but this one might have been a big decision maker here.
Cole here now, SRT 55 watts per kilogram. As you can see, the final moves in Belint here trying to get across. Schneemann there as well. Maybe going to do it. Only 55, 56. That super tuck's going to matter. Here comes an aero power-up. Jump right on that wheel with that momentum. That aero power-up, though, could have been used so well in a sprint situation, but you just got to get back on terms at this point. With 2 seconds up the road and only 3K to go, I think it's done here for Schneemann, perhaps? Yeah, it looks like that's not coming back. This is going to be your top 15 riders now coming to the line in the C3s. As Engel, HP, Magnus, Lance is here. Cole from SRT. It looks like Army Cycling, Hagen from the Herd. Ervik has been super strong on the day. I think this last time over the top from Thomas Ervik, he was not quite as involved. Lance going to go for some sprint points, and it could be a launch pad for a late attack all the way to the line.
So this is our C3s that we're in with?
C3s. This is C3s with Lance now on the front.
And
SZ. Lindqvist now over the top? No, just shutting things down.
you can see a few riders here not going to be a part of the conversation. It looks like as they press on, still a good group now. I think everybody's got to be preparing for the sprint at this point.
Schumacher saying, push, come on.
Yikes,
He doesn't want somebody to come. I wonder why. I wonder, like, what's happening there with the TFC Bugatti rider there? Like, what is the motivation to say go? Is he concerned about riders coming back?
He doesn't want to let guys rejoin from that group behind.
Interesting.
Because, well, why would you want them to rejoin?
True. I mean,
he's got
the work at this point for how many would come back or not come back, and how many riders. I mean, 15
well, so there's a sprinter back
point.
there. There's obviously a sprinter back there that he doesn't want to sprint with.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Wow, look at the heart rate, how quickly it came down here for Rex Schumacher. And maybe he's a sprinter, and that's why. Look at him, 63 RPMs. I think he's setting up. I think that's exactly why. He's like, come on, do some work, you guys, because I'm going to outsprint you all to the line here in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how they definitely are loading for bear at this point now. As I think everybody realizes that it's going to be a sprint out of this group. This has been the story of the day too, Nathan, hasn't it? This size group making it into the final, expecting one rider to attack. Somebody in this group has to, and there it is. It looks like we're going to start lifting the speed higher and higher now. Big wind up.
Yeah, a little bit of attack here from HB. DBR, Goose right on the wheel now. It is separating. Again, we've seen this over and over again, this race of attrition. Over in the C1s, there are attacks over in the top of that overpass. We'll get in with them in just a moment because this is the final 300 to the line or so for this C.
There's the arch.
Central. Erdvik, I was saying he may be able to pull this off. He's been super aggressive on the day, but I think Ingle from SZ's got an aero power up at 13 watts per kilogram to the line. And the timing from the back of the pack was so perfect there, it looks like. Van Urk a little bit late. Ingle, I think, is going to hold on to the line with this one. Van Urk followed up by Lindqvist. SZ go 1 and 3. Bringle comes across the line for that third place. So solid result there.
Swedish Swifters. They are really solid out here today. They brought their tactical savvy, the numbers, the motivation. They deliver another gold medal back to Sweden. Well done.
Coming into the final time over the top of the leg snapper. Snickers was off the front here. No, I love the name. He had a solid 4 or 5 second gap at one point. He's extended it now to 2. Dirt's keeping him within sight, but nobody's really working with the dirt rider out of Canada here. But he's just willing to put the work in, it looks like. Maybe even saying, you're not on my wheel. 7 meters, 5 meters. This is a brave move. Like this is like courage almost, there's a difference when you have courage and then folly, right?
Bravado.
Like
bravado is, yeah. So just to set the picture for everybody, this is a solo attack that we're looking at in the C1 race. They're out on their last lap, and Nathan, they've got one final trip up the leg snapper in front of them here.
Yeah, and these kind of efforts right before the leg snapper might put you off the back. And I've seen it this morning with Cridlin and a few other of the top riders making attacks early into the leg snapper and ended up suffering for it later on and not even with the lead group any longer. So are these riders that confident? Listen here. This rider, though, he's just kind of following wheels. These are not, look, 2.4. He's not
Lison's
really
one of the
interested.
strongest riders. Yeah, he's
not
covering
interested
the
in going.
front.
He's covering, exactly. This is a rider, I think, who's just playing it very smart right now.
I couldn't agree more. And to tell you the truth, so the PO Auto rider has got Nikolai Larsson with him there, the other PO Auto rider. So they're just making sure they're in good shape. This has been the man of the hour, Johnny Alexander out of Scotland here on Wahoo Lacole. We talked about him. He did the damage the first time up leg snapper. He's been relatively chill up till now, and not surprised to see him back center stage. Here we go. This is it right here, right now. We're going to find out a lot. We're not going to win the race on the leg snapper this time up, but we're going to find out who the top 10 are going to be. That's for sure. Who's going to come up over the top? That's World Elite Zwifters. I got to think, oh my. So Vanhi and Fuego right now. Let's see the damage that the World Elite Zwifter Oral 7 rider has been able to do. So strong through this sector. Wow.
You're going to be able to hold on to this, though? I don't think so. But it definitely did splinter things up a little bit here behind. One rider dropping off, and every single rider you can get rid of, especially amongst some top sprinters, matters. And Sam Crofts is no joke, the dirt rider here. And to get rid of him, that is a great move, actually. And it looks like it's done just that. So we've got about 21 riders here coming to the line.
Wow, these are the survivors after a tough day in the Zwift Classics here. The Rund am Innsbruck has come down to this. These are the gladiators of the road, and certainly looks good for PO Auto right now, Nathan. This has been one of the world's premium teams. I mean, they've set a standard, and at this point now, Joachim Lisson is the rider to beat in my book here, and he's ensconced in this group. Couldn't ask for better right now. Better situation for him. I don't see Franklin Almeida. Oh, there he is. Franklin is there. The Brazilian flag. So he's the big danger man, without any doubt.
I'd definitely be watching out for Almeida. Top rider here. And I think in and amongst this group, it's going to be Layson versus Almeida, really, at the end of the day. Maybe the other PO Auto rider, though. I think... watch out, no pins, R3R is
well,
here.
Well, Larson is a huge advantage for Leeson here because PO Auto, this is a intermediate sprint, and this really brings us into the final now.
Maybe a launch
There are
pad.
points there at that arch, but really the whole enchilada is at the finish line. So what the advantage for Pio Auto here is absolute, with Larson able to not only cover but even help launch his teammate Lisan into the win here. These are two of the Danish riders on there. It's a light green jersey. Don't really see. There it is, green and black of Pio Auto. Let's see if they can tag team this one. No guarantees, though. You're right. Franklin Almeida, one of the fastest riders in the world. Absolutely, there's a path for the Brazilian to win this one.
Are they just letting
There he
dirt?
is.
Are they just? I mean, 6 seconds, Dave. He's
Very
got
dangerous.
a serious gap. This is a serious gap at this point. Just
And
continuing
we're
on.
down to. They're going to have to absolutely redouble their effort, Nathan. I'm with you. This all of a sudden, I give it's a 50-50 chance, if not better, that he stays away here. This is quietly just snuck off the front while the big sprinters are looking at each other. They might have made a huge mistake out here.
And now Lyson says, okay, enough is enough, and gives it
So
a
this is
go.
where a teammate's going to make the difference for you, right? Lyson's going to this. I was talking about. This is Joachim Lyson. He's on his own at this point. Will he be able to make the catch?
Brings Gringo in. Now one more to go. 11 watts per kilogram.
Yeah.
I think he's got it.
He's
He's
got
got it. And I think he's gone. Nobody's going to be touching him unless he fades at this point. 6.9 watts per kilogram. Right to the line. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. Can he do it? He's got to kick one more time. He's not going to do it. I think dirt. There's an arrow power.
Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, 300 meters. Gringo now coming across. They might have went too early. I'm not
He's
sure.
gonna get him. One last little surge here. I think he's got just enough, Nathan. But man, that
That
was
must have hurt
close.
so bad. Oh my gosh,
got
that
it.
has been one of the
Yeah.
most painful. And it's the two late attacks again. And it's going to be Almeida taking the field sprint actually just ahead of Gringo. Oh my gosh.
That's how strong.
close.
That's how strong
again,
you needed to be.
Over and over again, Dave, we have seen this situation where it's just this sprinter attrition situation. Like, they're not even sprinters. It's like these shut up legs moments that just keep on winning the day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was saying you have to be the strongest sprinter left in the group that goes to the line. That played out pretty chaotically. But to be honest, Joachim Lisan was the strongest sprinter all day long, no matter what group he was in. But he certainly had to earn that one with an unconventional finish. That's for sure. Wow. All right.
Looking to looks like we've got some riders over on the downhill here of the of the KOM, something we're not taking on today. We'll jump in real quickly here with our results as they are being populated for us from WTRL. Dave, if you want to take us through Central Europe C3s, you can go across the line.
Yeah, that Swedes really had a fantastic day. And that's going to be Engel taking the gold medal, Van Urk for silver, Lindqvist. Look how many Swedish flags are up in our top 6, though. Lindqvist for the bronze. 4th place today going to the Canadian, Brignall. 5th is Berg. 6th is Lance Sorensen for 7th. Pilgrim in 8th. Cole for 9th. And Hagen rounds out our top 10 for our Central Europe. This was the Rund am Innsbruck C3 showdown. And I'll throw it back to you, Nathan.
It looks like Heinrich for the ladies in the C3. This is good to see the participation numbers picking up a little bit for the ladies. Absolutely awesome. As in the C3s, Heinrich taking it down, followed up by Dobbins there. It's going to be Ridgway in 3rd, Robertson in 4th, the Watts for 5th, Antal coming on in for 6th, Utram in for 7th, and Wimblet there in for 8th place in for our C3s. Then in
Look at all
the
strong ladies in that group. Nice job.
Super strong, very strong, and I really love to see the participation that is starting to pick up here across the board as we head into what a lot of people are calling the Zwift season. Now the C1s that we just saw across the line, that was quite the move by Lyson late. Timed it well there, Dave.
Yeah, you can see that you called it correctly. He had to redouble his effort there one more time, and it was just enough to catch Pike there. That was rider number one that we were talking about. So Pike with a memorable silver medal ride. But Nathan, that showed a lot of courage as well, and certainly created the race. So nice job by Pike, our silver medalist, Franklin Almeida, rounding out your top three. On the podium there for the bronze medal is the Brazilian Almeida. Then Van den Eyck out for fourth, Smart fifth, Simmons in sixth, Alexander, who was very active out there today and holds on for seventh, Larson eighth, Desschmidt ninth, and Nielsen rounds out our top 10 for the C1s. We had the pleasure of following out there through 45 kilometers of racing at the Ronde am Innsbruck. Our I was going to say penultimate, but we have two of our Zwift Classics remaining, Bologna and London, to look forward to.
I think the ladies still out on course for the C1, so we'll see if we can jump in with them. We're going to take a quick break. Everybody will be back in about 5 for the finish of the streams out here today for Western Europe. Don't go anywhere. We definitely want to be covering in with Western Europe. We just need to get in with the riders. We'll be back in 5 for the Zwift Classics to finish up for European and the Western here in about 5 minutes. See you guys just then. And welcome back to the Zwift Classics race number 6. We're out on the run to Innsbruck. The riders are out on course. They're just finishing up their first lap out on course, and it is going to be the Western Europe C1s and C3s. We've got some old school Zwift royalty in the house, I would like to say. Well,
Oh, yeah?
Well, Eric Schlange is back. Wait, I mean, there's a little bit of chatter actually happening, as well as Johnny Rocket is back for some racing. I'm not sure if this week we'll also have Charlie Eisendorf again, as he did jump in with us last week. But this is going to be in the C3s. Great to see. And Eric is having a solid ride out here today, but Rasmussen with a little bit of a kick, Bowman and the Netherlands, but this is 2 off the front. I think they'll be brought back into the fold, though, Dave.
Wow, I have a lot to unpackage here. But first off, so our C1s and our C3s, as we jump into Western Europe, we have really enjoyed great racing here today. I love this course. I don't know, Nathan. I guess it's old school fury out here. Really crazy first lap. Then we let things settle down a little bit, or at least that's the way it's typically been. But leave it to the Western Europe group to cut against the grain out here and have a full-on breakaway stay away. So this is the C1s are doing 45K, 36K for the C3s. Looks like we're going to have a bit of a regrouping, but Nathan, I'm going to guess some damage has been done. We should talk about the sprints. You'll see those along the way. They get sprinkled in, and every now and then these sprints, much like the leg snapper, which is the featured climb out here, the sprints will do some damage. But relatively small group, all things considered, only 8K in here.
Yeah, interesting enough. I mean, this is completely splintered, actually, in the C3s.
Crazy.
I mean,
I'm just kind of taking it all in. Is this the Eric Schlange effect? Is Eric just devastated?
Well, he's been following the wheels pretty well. I'd like to chat with him right now and get an idea of how he's feeling. He's actually using the Mert kit, it looks like, with the pink and pink socks. I mean, this is maybe Anna Russell approved here. He's also got a ZRL Champions helmet. I did not know that he was a ZRL champion.
That's the first time I've seen the helmet. So I guess we should explain that, Nathan. They, as a way of acknowledging our champions, and this would be any of the ZRL team champions, they were able to access this helmet. It looks fantastic. Eric, you're right. Anna Russell approved. That says all you need to know. This guy's got it going on. So at this point, he's showing off. Nathan, right? When is enough enough?
I mean, this is pretty cool, and I do like to say that, as far as gamification goes, and tokens in game to show off how legendary you are. I said this morning as well. You will, those who know. But whenever you're playing a game online and you see some sort of icon like that, for those who know what it means, you go, wow, that was a lot of work to make that happen. This person is something special in this game. They've put in the grind. They're really good at the game, whatever it might be. World of Warcraft, it was a bronze dragon at one point, or
Tron
maybe
Bike
a legend.
Was that kind of
Tron
Bike
at one point definitely was
that.
Actually,
the
earliest thing in game actually that was something like that was the 100-mile kit. That was the 100 to complete 100 miles in game. That kit was the thing. Then I would say after that was maybe level 20 or 25 kit too. Those two things were kind of you're showing off. Now it's like the ZRL helmet.
Yeah.
Because anybody can get those, whereas the ZRL helmet though, it is only the champions. And out of the millions that are on Zwift, there's only going to be 100 teams or whatever it might be. So it's a very small population that can even get those. So that's pretty exclusive crowd.
It's the first time I've ever seen it in game. Have you seen it before?
This morning we had a couple of riders, and then I think last week's broadcast we had a rider or two as well. So
I don't feel as bad as I normally do off the back with you, Nathan, because usually you're so far ahead of me, but at least I'm in the same 24-hour period as you. That's extremely cool. So again, I'm sure we'll be able to show that helmet at another point, but you're going to see that out there, and that just tells you, is it from season 3 only, or is it 1, 2, and 3? I have a feeling it's season 3 that came into play. We're coming up on 42 days or so until we've got Zwift season 4, ZRL, I should say, Zwift Racing League season 4, kicking off both community and premier. I think there's a lot of things you'll be excited to see with the league coming up. I know I can't wait to get it going again.
Yeah,
I'm
always.
seriously pumped for season
I'm
4,
actually
Nathan.
really yeah. I'm
I'm
excited to
pumped.
see how things have changed up amongst the teams, what people have been doing as far as drafting goes, who the big names are going to be. I mean, really exciting to see how this ends up playing out in this next season for sure. We
You
haven't done
know,
any. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's funny because when I think about it, it's had everything you're looking for, individual superstars, but it remains really the teams, doesn't it? And that's the team time trial element of ZRL that our friends at World Tactical Racing League have completely reinvented the way people race. And the team time trial is a huge part of the Zwift Racing League. And I absolutely love that. It's yeah, like you have your Freddie Ovitz and your Catherine Curies who've won multiple times as individuals, but it still comes down to the depth of your team that's going to win you that helmet that we were talking about.
Yeah, and I love that part of the
Isn't that
Zwift
cool?
Racing League is the team aspect of it. It definitely has, you know, the group needing to take on a challenge together. That is the Zwift Racing League up against all the others that are competing out there. A true arena style type, uh, competition. A little
I've
bit.
never, Nathan. Well, and I've never heard you even flinch, nor has any of my friends at Zwift, when I say that Hino is the greatest esports endurance team that has ever existed.
Yeah, they're
What those women
pretty
have done is
pretty amazing.
awesome.
Now, I want to see what it plays out this next season, though. A lot of teams are gonna be thinking, how do we take down Hino? How do we take down Hino? It's been 3 seasons now. Is it just gonna be more dominate Hino domination? So, the recruitment, the as well as the planning and the look at I think this season as well, because there's been a break and the in real life racing has been able to happen. And now some athletes might be thinking, hey, I really want to get involved in this. Zwift is really seriously in a new way, in my opinion, a part of the cycling world as an official genre with the World Championships. Obviously, this past year, I just think that we might see some change up here with the depth changing and Hino not maybe being able to be quite as dominant. We'll see though.
I completely agree.
But we'll
Um,
see. We'll see. You got to get some people coming out of the woodwork though for that to happen. Otherwise, it's just going to be Hino again doing what Hino does.
so, I mean, Nathan, I'm pretty sure that a lot of our friends watched the World of Zwift and saw, let's say, a rider like Nadia Gantova coming out of the community. That would be one asset that a team could bring on board that could be the game changer for you out there. I love what you were talking about, the recruitment, the ability to create a positive vibe on your team and get more women or men, whichever, to join your team. It's going to be critical. And that's the only way that you beat Hino is by use the term coming out of the woodwork. That's perfect. You're going to have to find that a diamond in the rough. Those riders are out there. Hey, Kristen Faulkner, our friend who raced with us on the Tibco team multiple times in esports, she in real life just climbed on a podium at the Arctic Tour in Norway.
Almost,
UCI, her
almost
first,
held that jersey though too. Almost
yeah,
held the
so close.
GC. So close.
Won a stage.
She ended up in the
Yeah,
sprinters though. Am I not right? Is that correct or no?
and third overall. Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? And she is just another example of you can start at the sport from a different background. She comes out of Alaska, where she would have never had the opportunity to really race road racing against women of her caliber, or men or humans of her caliber, to tell you the truth. But she goes on to do some really great things. And I know that we're going to find more and more athletes. Hey, Jay Vine is racing at the Welta right now. And people thought he was a flash in the pan on Zwift. Well, he's backing it up at the Welta, right? Another sprint there, Nathan. I want to throw it back to the live action. Don't want to sell these riders short. I saw Caleb Carl's name popping up. That's a fun name to talk about, Nathan. What a great story Caleb Carl is. Matt Wheeler is also one of the restart riders in this field. There's a lot of talent that we're going to start identifying as we get a little bit deeper into it. This is our C1 men. But Nathan, I don't mean to be a wet towel on your bonfire, but what we've seen today is making this first selection. That's been the name of the game. If you can do this, odds are pretty good you're going to get a crack at the win today.
Yeah, Caleb Carl, as known in the Twitch community as Clickbait Racing, is in and amongst here.
Is that new? I haven't heard that before.
That's just his Twitch channel. It's always been Clickbait Racing. So.
Well, Clickbait works because he definitely puts on an entertaining show. So it's worth the click.
Insured making a little bit of move. I heard they had a pickup. Actually, there was some drafting going on for Insured, so I'm not gonna let any of the cats out of the bag. I've been chat last night. This is why you gotta hang out at Twitch and all the Zwift streams on Twitch in that community, because you find out things you wouldn't know otherwise. I'm not sure I can let the cat out of the bag, but Insured's been on some recruiting, that's for sure, and some big names coming on in the community. So pretty cool to see that. But they've got Moan here making a little bit of move. Maine, is it?
Yep. Yeah, it is Maine. I'm a fan. He's a father himself and a rider that we're going to hear more about on the Insured team, but certainly a danger man here as well. I know it's spelled not what you would think would be Maine, but I've got it on pretty good sources. Feel pretty confident there.
I grew up with a Moan. I grew up with a Matt Moan and a Nick Moan, so that's why it was spelled exactly that way. So I was like, oh, okay. But I trust Maine is the way that it's going there. Johnny Rocket now, Foudre as well, also a Twitch streamer, AM Cyclist. It looks like, or Cyclismo. Is that what it's going to be?
I believe you're right, but you know what, Nathan? I want to tap into your depth of knowledge here. Johnny Rocket, that name certainly rings a bell. I think he has a hamburger chain, right? But Johnny Rocket is an old school guy that you've raced with many times.
Yeah. So Johnny, long time rider, the Melting Man, we used to call him actually, back in the day. And Johnny Finesse Rockets, he was a part of making that happen. Team Finesse, and is now still racing at a pretty high level here, as you can see. I actually raced with him on Friday. Me and him were making some moves. I think I just jumped into a 3R Volcano race for a few laps out there. And me and him were off the front, and he said I'm not in shape, and ended up backing off as he launched me into an attack. And I won the race because Johnny launched that attack with me.
Nice.
So thanks a lot, Johnny. So yeah, he's been around. I mean, as far as old days go, as Rasmussen takes down this intermediate sprint point over Bowman, it's going to be Verhoeven's going to be third across the line. But, Johnny's been around from day one of streaming. He's one of the first riders that we ever featured when we had our first times ever showing people on cameras and stuff. I mean,
where does he live? Do you know? Have you?
Well, when I first met Johnny, he was on the West Coast, Pacific Northwest. I don't know if he's still in that area, but that was definitely it was West Coast, Pacific Northwest area. We'll probably get some chatter from him in game in a moment here, but I think he's suffering too much to talk right now.
To chat, yeah. I get it. I don't know how you guys do any type of communicating on keyboard or even Discord. So, Nathan, this looks like the selection in front of our eyes, and Johnny made it. So that's a big kudos to him. Taking a look around, Marco is there. Biff making it for Z Scott. Vegan's got Lemaire's, Bauman, Kimmel, Bub. So starting to identify in our European West C1s that we're looking at right now. We've got the C3s queued up. We'll jump back
This
and
is
forth. But
C3s,
thank you.
excuse me. Actually,
Sorry,
John Rockets Riders
C3s.
are C3s. Yeah, and I actually can help out on that front. Apologies, but yeah, C3s here, and now not again from Nguyen. I think he's just getting back on terms, and now he's saying he's made it. No, I like almost like I don't know if I even want to be here anymore at this front group, but all back together again here, Dave.
Do you know what the term Fred? Does that mean anything to you in your cycling vernacular? It's an
I
old
do know
school,
it. I
old
do.
school.
I've been told it multiple times,
So
but
it's pretty straight ahead. So it goes back to kind of like poser, but it goes back to, I think, Alan McCormick, who was an Irish writer who was in the States in the 80s. He used the term Fred to describe the guy that had all the kit, had the fancy bike, but didn't actually race or ride a bike. So the guy sitting in front of your coffee shop with the brand new Colnago with
I thought
the
it was an acronym. It's not. They just called him a Fred. It's not actually an
oh, well,
acronym.
it might, again, it could be in an acronym, but definitely the Fred I'm talking
Okay,
about would be
gotcha.
what I was
That's
just.
why.
So
So I
you know
knew.
what
I
I'm
knew. I
saying.
knew what a Fred was, but I was like, I thought that it
Oh,
was on the
yeah. So I
same
don't think
level
so.
as like a mammal, like
Like, but it could be like friends riding endurance diesels, or you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I would think it'd be a little bit
right,
more like
better
making
than
fun
that.
of making fun of an individual rather than like, oh, we're all just friends. No, these are idiots who don't know what they're doing.
Like, right. Some version of freaks riding
Yeah,
something, or yeah,
exactly.
right. In the loving sense, of course. Well, I don't think I need to explain what a rhino is to you, do I? I think you're up to speed on rhinos, because they are the fastest of all mammals, from what we've learned.
Off the front here.
Rhinos,
Got it.
whether it's Sumatran or white rhinos, woolly rhinos, it makes no difference. We've seen the rhinos absolutely dominating in WTRL team time trials, and this is going to be Tandy that we're looking at. Still in with the C's, aren't we, Nathan, here as we make our way through the midpoint of their race. 36 kilometers out here in Rund am Innsbruck. Super fan of this course for sure. These 4 laps on this circuit, that means 4 trips up the old leg snapper, which I think is overhyped, or it's one of those names, Nathan, that sounds scarier than it is, because the leg snapper is manageable.
Leg snapper is fairly manageable. When's the last time you did leg snapper, Dave?
I do it all the time,
All
Nathan.
the time, yeah. In a race situation, because I'm just wondering, like, Dave's letting us all know how manageable it is. But I mean, there
I
might
love
be
that you
some
call my
disagreement.
bluff on
There
that.
might be some disagreement about it out there on course right now.
Well, I'm speaking from the perspective of the super athletes, not from my perspective. Who would care about my perspective? I'm talking about from like Michael Wood's perspective. But so, yeah, if you're one of the better climbers, and actually it's not a long effort, is a good way to put it. And if you can make those numbers, and that's really been the name of the game that we've seen, is the best sprinter left in the group that goes to the line. But usually we sort that out the first time up the leg snapper. That's fair to say. Wouldn't you agree that the biggest selection is made first trip up?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely would agree with that in amongst this these categories now too.
Kind of either got it or you don't, right? I mean, how many times have you seen that in your
Phil's
racing
letting
career?
us know. Phil's letting us know I'm disagreeing with Dave Toll. So everybody in chat, let us know whether or not the leg snapper is a major feature on the course or not, and whether or not it really makes things hurt.
Hey,
oh, man,
I called
you might
it
get a lot of people calling your bluff
yeah.
here, Dave.
That's hysterical.
It's manageable. It's manageable. You know, I do agree with you in some ways. Some kind of a Taliban.
Oh man.
So
well,
I do agree though that it isn't necessarily the point on course that you are going to win the race. It is a point though that you can tactically use to respond to how things go over the leg snapper, though.
You can help people lose the race on the leg snapper for sure. But
Exactly.
one thing I haven't seen, so maybe someone can prove me wrong here. And again, I absolutely understand that, wrong much more than I'm right out here, but that's part of the fun of the discussion. Can someone solo attack on the leg snapper and hold it to the finish line? Wow, I would love to see it. That's for sure. Well, here we go. Let's ramp it.
I've seen it. I believe Alan did it this morning. Okay, Alan did it this morning in our C3s amongst the New Zealand, but that's all we've seen so far. It's a very difficult task. Super.
And to be fair, C3 a little different than C1 as far as the differential in talent and ability in that group, although not much. And let's see what we've got. Everyone all together right now.
A move there a little bit, and then just backed right on off. And this can, as you were saying, people can lose right here. Standard, who is disagreeing with you, is showing you exactly why. It's going to be Liz Van Houweling making the lead group in the C1s. Didn't notice this is probably our leader amongst the women. Needs to get back on terms now, though. Not sure Van Houweling's going to make it happen from Provision. Standard now needing to go across 6 watts per kilogram.
It's interesting how
held up a little bit, actually.
This is very, very similar to what you see in elite gravel racing in the United States right now. With the women and the men mixed together, it's the woman that can, stay with these guys that gets a huge advantage being able to sit in this group. And Van Houweling there, a name that we're becoming familiar with, that's for sure. L. Van Houweling in this case.
The communication is so great. Yep, I'm gone, Dave. See? He just wanted to prove the leg snapper was crucial. That actually had nothing to do with his ability level. That was just him sticking it to you. That was no.
He was just making a point.
He was just making a point. There. No, this is real. Leg snapper.
Like, how wrong real. Can Dave Toll be? Well, here, I'll show you.
And Short going again, Matt, with a little bit of a move here. It looks like. And Lowe trying to come across. I think it might be a little late. We'll see. No, I'm wrong. It's actually going to be Van Hout. Matt holds on from insured. Lowe for third. Wilkinson fourth. Cartlook for fifth across that line. And that is the intermediate sprint point. Where's Caleb Carl? Clickbait Racing is what I want to know. Still sitting in.
Another legend. Talking about Caleb. I'll never forget during the Zwift Racing League Season 3 seeing him show up for 3 races in a row. And he wasn't just pack fill. Caleb was ending up top 5s, top 3s. It was impressive, not only how strong he was, but just back to back to back like that. But we're back right now. Taking a look at a very aggressive race, Nathan. This is Matt Main talking about Matt earlier.
He keeps on making these moves over and over again. Main is not – the timing of them is interesting to me, but he's definitely taking it to the race, though.
Yeah, that's an animator, isn't it? And this speaks to the rider that you are. You personally, Nathan, someone who just can't, they're always going to be on the front. If the pace slows down, just picking it up and helping a catalyst, I think, for excitement out there. The kind of racers that keep races fast. And I mean, I heard some folks, Nathan, talking as we're with Tandy here, talking about the match sprint at the Olympics and how mind-blowing it was to see the racers doing a track stand, trying to force the other rider into the front and basically winning the bike race by stopping. Right? How counterintuitive is that for anybody who doesn't understand the tactic of you want the other rider to lead out the sprint so you can use the draft and use that to your advantage? But there's going to be racers out here, and without any doubt, that just ride the front, ride hard, keep it moving, and just don't let those lulls take over. And even though no one at any point has to be on the front, there's some riders that just find themselves there, and those are the riders that you love. So this is going to be Marlier that we're looking at, the Food rider. That's another team that came on strong over the course of just a couple months ago. Start hearing more and more about them, Nathan.
Yeah, he's got a solid 2 second gap here.
Twitch.
Isn't stringing it out too much. He is one of our Twitch streamers out there. Vahouden
Yeah.
trying to shut this down, it looks like, is going to lead for the Netherlands. Team Netherlands, I'm loving the kit they have in game here. Team KNWU. And
I
they're
fly up
slanging.
the leg snapper. I see all these comments. People don't understand. That's one of my sweet spots, the leg snapper. But
Dave just flies up the leg snapper.
crush it. Hashtag crush it. All right. So Nguyen, we're in with Nathan. Another
He was
one
complaining
of these.
last lap. Last lap, he was like, "Not again," and now it looks like it's happened again. Noyan needs to get back on terms. It looks like Biff here from Z Scott, and it's gonna be Gaw, but it's 3 seconds. And those boys, they are done this time. I don't think they're coming back again. They made it happen
Yeah,
last
it's
lap,
interesting.
not this time though. Slangy's still
You
in
know, when
here.
they give you the standing 8 count when you stand up in a prize fight off of the mat, but after a couple of times of the standing 8 count, they call the fight, and it's so hard to do this chasing back on and chasing back on. That yo-yo effect will break a strong rider's back, that's for sure. As these guys, Eric still in there, the Zwift Inside superstar here, having a tremendous ride. Let's see if he can pull off a massive victory.
What
That
are
could be
these comments
trumpeted
here?
on Zwift Insider.
You are inspiring some in comments. That's for sure as they come through. Dave
Yeah.
Toll versus the leg snapper. That's a feature we need on World of
It's
Zwift
on.
now. We need a World of Zwift. Dave Toll meets the leg snapper.
All race OJ.
Yeah, there we go. We need
Yeah,
to have
I'll take him on.
this needs to happen. This needs to.
I'm hardly afraid of OJ.
Look what you've gotten yourself into here, Dave. Leg snapper is bloody snapping my kneecaps every damn time we're hearing from Victor. Almost CB rider. But seriously, it's like
Don't
finding
you
a whole
love-
pepper in your sandwich. It's not optimal, but you eat it anyway. Love it, Victor.
I
Great
agree with that. I have to say that this is one of my favorite courts to watch racing on, that's for sure. Charlie Eisendorf does a tremendous job of selecting all of the routes that we've had throughout the Zwift Classics season. Although I understand how some riders might not exactly agree with me right now as the lactic acid is pooling up in your legs.
Just wait until season 4 of ZRL and let me know how much
Ooh la
you
la.
enjoy.
Right?
Yeah. Tour, what is it? The tour, I forget the name on Yorkshire course. I'll find it here. Tour of Tuitwell.
I see we've
Tour of Tuitwell on, I believe, is going to be one of the ZRL courses, and it's going to be, yeah.
Profile of that course looks like a saw blade.
Yeah, it looks like a jagged saw blade. There's different kinds of saw blades, right? You've got your,
This is the kind of saw they use to cut people's legs off, I think.
Oh,
Whatever that looks like. It ain't pretty.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I'm thinking of these saws that we use to get the branches, the low hanging branches.
With the giant teeth on
Giant
them,
teeth
or
on them
knots.
because you got to like grab them. You got to grab the branches down.
Rip saw, I think, is
Rip
what you
saw.
call
There
that.
it is. I think that's right. I think it is called a rip saw. Yeah, that's what we're gonna call some of the climbs in that course. The rip saws.
That's a good
Coming
name.
back, it looks like here.
Rip saw. Yeah.
We got leg snapper. Now we got the rip saws. Looks like it's again. I was wrong. Nguyen is probably complaining some more. Like, really? Do we really have to go ride with those guys? Oh, 10
they're going to
seconds
rejoin,
up,
aren't they?
Within striking distance, and the name of the game with this group up here seems to be go hard through very specific sections and then back right on off and chill out and just watch and see what happens. It looks like.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. There's some interesting comments from racers when you talk about once you've dropped riders, how important it is to not let them rejoin the race. And there's a certain psychological element on both sides there and that's what racing is all about. But It's always interesting when you see riders fighting their way back. And one of the coolest things is when you see that rider who has dropped, who's able to get back into a group and then win the bike race later. And it really speaks to never giving up, which is a big part of racing. Team NL is back on track again. That's good to see from the iSport report.
We'll see. He's almost there. He was he was saying we're here again, and they have done so.
He's back.
It looks like Nguyen has done it, and they've got a lot of riders actually out of the Netherlands here. Verhoeven's here, Bowman. I'm not sure if they're all riding on the same team though, as we do see Team Vegan and a couple other names in there, but they're definitely all coming out of the Netherlands and maybe working a little bit together.
We talk a lot about countries and loving bikes and cycles, but I don't know, Nathan, in all honesty, that there's a country in the world that has more bicycle positive, just bicycle DNA from the moment you can walk for the rest of your life. People in Holland ride their bike. It's awesome what they do with bike infrastructure, and they deserve a ton of credit for being such a bicycle friendly country.
I mean, don't a lot of city planners and government individuals that go there to see
how it's done?
That happened here locally. We had some planners that were like, "Well, how do we make this happen?" And we had real results from it actually, with some.
Well, it's like, where are they doing it right? Like, if you want to learn how to make French bread, you go to France. If you want to learn how to make pizza, you go to Italy or pasta, whatever. But if you want to learn how to build bike infrastructure, go to Holland or Denmark. But yes, that's it. That's good to hear your community recognizes that, because find out where people do it right.
Yeah, we have a really great organization actually locally here. The Wisconsin Bicycle Federation that pretty educated and has done a lot of work in the realm of politics in order to try and make some things happen. And specifically, we're looking at what's happening in these countries you're talking about. So really cool ways to figure out how to do things right. Infrastructure matters if you want to make sure that everybody gets to use it well.
I just donated to my local FC bike, Fort Collins Bike, which does the exact same thing, working on infrastructure here. And yeah, it's good stuff.
See right here,
my part of the world.
Swart,
yeah,
looks like dirt here. It looks like South Africa. I'd love to talk more about bicycle feds and the politics of making sure that we have infrastructure. But we got a race on our hands now. We'll get to maybe that's something we need to do a little bit of podcasting about, though. It's definitely an awesome topic. RB here now, Aero CT to the front here out of Australia. Wilson, Pedersen from Fusion there as well. Kel's here. This is the C1s, the top level that we are covering today. Caleb Carl there, 8.9. And I think, Carl keeps on getting some solid results out here and might get an upgrade to the C0. I'm not, because he's been, I think, on the podium the last couple of times.
Well, you have to look at Martin Anhoy, and I'm looking to make sure Anhoy is still in this group.
Yeah, he's there. The DBR rider right there, RT.
100% a rider that has got the goods to close this one out. The Danish rider on DBR certainly stands out in this group. Trev Daddy, the Canadian on TFC, that yellow jersey that you see right there, that's a rider who also is going to be hoping that if you're in this group, the front group, I should say, that goes to the line, that's going to be one of the riders that certainly is going to be a podium contender, to say the least. And we're getting to that point.
One and a half to go.
Most significantly, just that if you've made it over the leg snapper with these guys, you got to be feeling like your chances are pretty good to be able to do that again. See that Wahoo Lacole. There's Anhoy, the DBR rider that I was talking about, and he's doing a really good job of keeping that powder dry, as we say.
Bergenski, though, you were saying early on,
there you
right?
Have it.
That Bergenski was one, and he's been pretty quiet. First lap, he gave a go, but he's been pretty quiet since. What's interesting to me is
Matt
out of all
Wheeler.
these riders, who's going to want to maybe make a move and not bring it to the line? That's the other question is, as we see
So
this race get animated, the predictions about who's going to be the riders that, and so far, Matt Main has definitely been one of those riders that does not seem to want this to
it's a
come to
good
the
guess.
line. But Matt's now on the
That's a
kick. Ooh, it looks like Harlip took it, I think, the rider for the Dutch team.
boy. If you are that rider that you're speaking of, Nathan, this is where you really wish you could find 5 or 6 guys that want to make a run for it. Because you can see how it strings out right now, but expecting only one rider and maybe everybody is going to be able to survive that last barrage there. These sprints hurt, no doubt about it, but it looks like everybody's going to be able to shake that off.
Gonna have one to go
Almost
in just a moment.
everybody.
You were saying Goff's here was maybe a threat, but seems to be struggling a little bit, or perhaps he was just, seems like he brought it back with ease. Actually, maybe he was just letting the wheel go for a moment because that didn't look too difficult for him. They did slow down a little bit on the front, though. We'll see. We're gonna have one to go in just a moment here. One to go in just a moment in the C1s. The
Do we have a
C3s.
couple racing? Is this Yvonne? Because Anne Le Goff from France is also in this race, but this is Y Le Goff.
Yeah, that's
Although,
awesome. That'd be really cool if in-house
is
situation side by side.
I'm not sure, or is Anne the same as Y? Because Anne makes 14.4 watts per kilo for 15 seconds. So I'm going to guess that this is, at least on Zwift Power, I have that as Anne, A-N-N, Le Goff. I don't know if you see what I'm seeing. Might be a different rider.
Let me double check.
So,
Double check on that.
taking a look at our
C.
front group here.
We can jump in with the C3s now, as they are on to their final, and as they do.
Hey, they've only got about 3K to go here. Talking about the C3s.
Yeah, coming right down to it here, and they're going to hit their leg snapper for the final time
I'm
right
thinking
now.
that the Le Goff is, I think, this one in the same. Is my
Yeah,
guess
I think you're
there.
correct. I think you're correct. If there's only one. Now, there's a little bit of a gap. They did push off the front over the top of that false, that 2% uphill gradient over the bridge and did get this gap here. They're trying to extend it. Bowman's given a go, and this might be the one time where this is going to succeed because of how splintered these groups are behind. It's a solid 7 seconds back to the Verhoeven group. Not really even a group, so there's not much to work with here because it's kind of completely bombshelled. You've only got 4 or 5 riders that really can make a concerted effort together. And by the time that pack chases down those 4 or 5 riders, they're going to want to slow down at that point. Not a lot of effort. And Bowman might have made a good move, but I'm not sure he's got the power in the legs. He's pedaling when he should be super tucking as well. So this is going to be losing speed. Interesting enough. Now jumping back up into 6.4 watts per kilogram. He didn't really gain a whole lot there through that section. Does look like Marlier, they've got him in sight. I think they've got a lot of confidence here amongst this group, though, that he's going to be coming back if these 3 work together. And they're going to have a lot of motivation to do so because they've got this hard charging pack behind that's going to want to bring this in. Well, I wouldn't call this a pack, Dave. This is not a pack.
It's a whole different kind of race, yeah. Decidedly different, much more of an every man and woman for themselves out here. I'm with you there. I certainly wouldn't go all in on saying that's the race winning move. As you can see that a small group right behind has got some real estate to work with, but they'll run out of that pretty quickly here, Nathan. Bauman, even though this is going to be touch and go, this will be touch and go. We've seen these small groups able to nail it back, and I think that'll be the case here one more time, but it's not over until it's over. But it looks like the man himself, Johnny Rocket Rasmussen, is there, and I believe along with some help from Marco Kimmel and company, Eric Schlang still within shouting distance. They are going to make the catch now, but it looks like Johnny Rocket's going to attack up and over the top. Excuse me, Rasmussen attacking up and over the top. Okay. Well, down to the final few meters.
He should just ride right by.
Catch.
He is going to ride right by. That's exactly what he should have done. Bauman's got nothing left in the legs, and he's got a gap. This is a great move here from Rasmussen from Fusion Dev, 5.6 watts per kilogram. He's gone 25 meters, and Bauman now trying to close it down. He let the gap go, not going to happen. And these three are just looking at each other saying, who's got anything left in the legs? Not me.
Well, and again, so this will be interesting because the three, if they can work together, have got a decided advantage here.
They don't have any power. Rasmussen's just a stronger rider at this point. He timed it, and he's got the energy. I think he waited.
Away.
He waited, and he waited, and he waited. And then at the right moment, went over to the top, the counter, and just rode right on by Bauman. He's absolutely gone. There's no one is bringing him back at this point.
Yeah, I mean, for a moment there when it was sitting at 4 seconds, they had a chance if they were able to surge, but now it's definitive. This one is going, gone. What a ride from Rasmussen. Saved it up. Group blows itself apart. This is your sole survivor here. Congratulations. That's how you do it. Big win at this level here. You're Rund am Innsbruck champion. And it's a definitive win. We haven't seen any of these today, Nathan, or I haven't seen any of these today.
Marlier here from Fudre trying to make something happen. Not sure you can close down 10 seconds. This may make Rasmussen a little bit nervous, but with 9 seconds and the amount of time left out on course here, Bauman over the top, but then they start infighting again. Unless they continue to attack each other this way, it's not going to be happening. It's right to that 500 meters, half a K to go. They're within distance, within striking distance, but they just don't have the energy left to make anything happen. They're really just trying to attack each other to get away at this point. Rasmussen's going to
they're racing. Certainly racing for the silver medal, aren't they? Back there as Rasmussen is golden here in Innsbruck.
For a moment there, I was like, maybe if they keep on doing what they were doing, but they're just looking at each other for silver now, as you said, Dave. 4.8. What a move by Rasmussen. The timing was perfect. The second they came off the leg snapper, knowing everybody was totally cooked, they're working together to bring it back. But little did they know, Rasmussen was thinking, this isn't just to bring it back, it's to ride right on by to the finish line. And that's exactly what he did with 15 seconds over the competition, actually. JF Rasmussen, Fusion Development takes it down.
Yeah, I mean, at the very end of the race, he just explodes. Congratulations here. As Rasmussen, the Danish rider, is going to definitively win for our C3s here in Innsbruck. Let's see, is Johnny Rocket going to get the silver?
Takes it down. Nice job to Rocket. Bauman there, followed by Marlier. The field sprint is
for bronze.
Not really a field sprint, actually, it looks like, as it's for fifth place. Bub from TFC. Schlange coming on through, almost nipping at the line. Doesn't quite get Kimmo.
Good ride from Eric today, though. Solid. Yeah, this was a only the strong survive throwdown on the last lap for our C3s. We're going to jump back in now with the C1s as they're right down to it. They've got one trip up the leg snapper. Piece of cake, according to Dave Toll.
Yeah, one trip up the no big deal snapper.
No big deal. Yeah. So, no, I joke. I mean, it is a big deal. It's a tough minute, no doubt. But we haven't, at this level, though, this size group, a little bit different than what we just saw, Nathan. It's going to be hard to show anybody the back door. These guys are so tough. It's not easy to drop guys at this level, even on the leg snapper.
It's really, really not. It has to be very tactical. You have to use the energy systems at very specific times to manipulate theirs as best as you possibly can to put them into hurt and get as much as you can out of your own. Now, I didn't notice this. What is going on here? I missed an attack.
Is this a solo?
And this must have went... This went actually across
at 20 seconds. Holy cow.
And I think
well, Nathan, I just want to make sure I'm seeing that right.
Earlier. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's 20 seconds. I think this went in the downtown section and extended out to
Wilson. So Ray Wilson is the rider here. And he is gone. I mean,
111 RPMs. He is spinning to win here. Full on threshold.
Let's watch him.
Now. 6'5".
Let's watch him on the leg snapper now, Nathan. I mean, like the numbers, if he's sitting here at 6 watts per kilo,
It might not be
he's
enough.
not.
So I did
They'll
7 to
bring back
8
a
over the
little.
top on this to stay away with about the same. I had about 15 to 20 seconds here. If they throw down serious orange numbers right now, though,
Okay,
they're going
look
to
what's
bring that
happening, and
back
they
to
are.
about 10.
They
They're going
are.
to bring back down to
So-
10 seconds, I think, over the top. And then from there, their roll through speed is going to be higher than Wilson's as well. I think he's going to get shut down. He needed to throw down 7 to 8
Yeah.
if he was gonna do it.
Well, I hope he's not listening because I'm with you on that. 20 seconds, it would sound at that moment that we checked in, it sounded like, oh my gosh, they're not going to bring him back. But I actually think that the power of the Peloton here should be enough. Well, they're going to need to keep the bit between their teeth. That's going to be Maine and Carl, riders up on the front. They got their work cut out for them, Nathan, but I think that they should keep some hope. Yeah, it looks like they will be able to make that catch. Well, that was incredible. Ray Wilson building up that kind of advantage. But for as they say, what goes up must come down. All of that work, he's got to be in the hurt locker right now. And unfortunately, these renegades are coming for him. From his perspective, it's just so hard to hold him off.
A little bit of a kick over that bump in the road. He's still off the
There
front.
he is.
But
You can see he's
3.1.
just 4 seconds.
Yeah,
This is
and the
now
speed
catch.
57, as you can see here. They're going to be doing almost 60 kilometers per hour in this next section. They're going to roll that speed right on through into the flat, and
It's
he will
noteworthy.
come back into the fold.
20 seconds on the leg snapper, Nathan. Look how quickly they brought that all back because the catch has now been made.
Yeah, and it's a learning lesson too that if you're going to go, you have to be able to put out 7 to 8 watts per kilogram over the leg snapper to hold onto the gap that you gain. If you just do a threshold over the top without a solid 40 seconds or more, they will bring back 20 so quickly because of the amount of speed they carry over the top.
Martin is ready to just go ballistic here now, as it looks like we're going to have a good old-fashioned barn burner of a sprint, Nathan. They've made the catch or hit the reset button. Who's going to gallop their way to a win here in Innsbruck?
Kells pull to the front now, as they don't really seem to care too much about that sprint one
They
bit.
don't.
Actually, they're only thinking about the finish line.
Yeah.
Well, Caleb, Carl, have a capping out here today. You were saying Anhoj from DBR is the man to watch out for. Matt Main is here still as well. The Vanga boys, ECC. I mean, Bragensky. There's about a big. I can't really call this one, to be honest, Dave. Patterson there,
Klaus Beck as
Fusion.
well. Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm
this
with
is
you.
and
watch out for Klaus. Yeah, this is gonna be good. We're going to get a real quality sprint, no doubt about it. You can feel it starts to lift. This is where we go from simmer to boil right about now. Let's get ready. This is going to be fun. I'm tipping Martin Anhoy, the Danish rider. Certainly Denmark has had a good day today. Klaus Beck would also like to represent for DBR. Who's going to get this one done? No question, this is going to be a next-level throwdown. Esports is all about these moments. Who's going to be the star here in Innsbruck, Nathan? It's going to be a straight-up sprint. It's going to be a drag race.
Yeah, it's pretty calm at the front at this point. 2.8 watts per kilogram is absolutely nothing for this crowd.
You don't get this often, do you?
McLellan is the first one to go from AHDR now into that 1% uphill gradient in order to use that gradient to grab an immediate gap. Caleb Carl responds at 12 watts per kilogram to come across. He's going to pull the group up, which will not be in his favor. Actually, now he lets Poole come to the front there. Lots of fake outs. Drafting power up with no wheel to hold.
Yeah.
Back here now from DBR at 8 watts per kilogram. Here's the front four. They can't let that gap go, though. McLellan's still got a gap, and now at 160 beats per minute, I think he just wants to jump on the wheel of the ECC rider. He's not going to be able to, and the Vanga boy might be catching them out. We've seen this done time and again, but he doesn't have over a second. He's going to need a little bit more wiggle room than that because they're about to open up. Here it comes now, Dave. It's going to be Matt Main there, 13 watts per kilogram. There's the arrow. They're going to make the catch. Carla, Dutch rider, back here trying to come across, but Main, easy peasy, 14 watts per kilogram.
Whoa.
Woo.
Nice.
That was
Main.
no problem.
Well, he was
actually.
aggressive. He kept his nose up there all day. Martin just missing out at maybe underestimating Matt Main, or maybe Matt Main just that good. But congratulations. That was a sweet, sweet win out there. Wow. What you can be even a little too patient, Nathan, and I think that might have been Martin Anhoy getting caught out just a little bit there.
I'd
So
have to
hard to time
agree.
it.
This is a tough one for the timing with the way that the pack behaves on this course in a lot of ways.
That was
So
fun.
top 20 here for Hoax from ATP. Iron Cycling as well. Trying to come across. Not going to make it happen for some of these later placings. So we're going to get some results in here in just a moment as a lot of these riders finish up still. Iron Cycling's actually going to get the better of Hoax. Actually, Hoax maybe even get nipped at the line by the rider behind there as we continue to move our way back. Afonso's out here from PTZ. Always good to see PTZ. Stick with Afonso for a moment while we get the results in. Actually, Human's going to roll us around course for a minute.
A lot of riders out here today. Thanks to everyone who came out and threw their leg over the saddle and jumped in the mix. It was impressive to see so many fields. Over 100 riders or very close to it out here as we get a feel for how active it's been in Innsbruck. There's a big day of racing on Tuesdays now, covering the Central, the Western, and the Eastern European divisions. Got a chance to wrap things up.
It's a lot of racing going on, that's for sure. Dave, go ahead, take us away here.
Well, congratulations to Matt Main as the American gets a nice victory, and you can see that he really was very efficient out there as well. Martin Anhoy, you could say the same, coming up just a little bit shy, as the timing from Main was the difference there. Martin Anhoy taking the silver medal, and then Klaus Beck rounding out our top three. It's Karluk for fourth, Legoff, very impressive ride for the French rider, in fifth, Kells for sixth, Wilson seventh, Carl in eighth, Poole for ninth, and Pedersen rounds out our top 10 for our Western Europe C1s. Really competitive group and a fun race to watch today at our classic Rund am Innsbruck.
We'll see. I don't think we're going to have any ladies finishing. So actually, Van Halen actually across the line with Morrison. And Morrison, I think that might have been her second race actually out there today. So nice job to the rider.
They must have been in the same group there with just 1 second separating the two.
Solid rides. Van Halen, it looks like, maybe playing things a little bit smarter, almost a full watt per kilogram less. So solid ride there by Van Halen. In with the C3s. Going to take a look here in Western Europe. Rasmussen, we saw that move from him. Solid move, riding away from the field. Grabs 10 seconds over Jonathan Guerin. The melting man. Johnny Rocket. All the different names he goes by. The infamous. Bauman there for third, it looks like. Mar there for fourth. Verhoeven in for fifth. Bub sixth. Perez in for seventh. Eric Schlange from Zwift Insider rolls in amongst the field. Always in for a sprint for eighth. It's going to be Kimmel for ninth. And Nguyen across the line in 10th place. And then in and for the women, it's going to be Schramber, followed up by Homer, Gallagher, and Ortiz. That is the situation in the C3s. We did have a question that came on through about broadcasts and whether or not we have a schedule up for them. For the Zwift Racing League, you will have a lot of the streams scheduled ahead of time that you'll be able to find all of them over on our YouTube. We will be getting those up as soon as we possibly can as the schedule starts to get developed for us, and we know everybody who's going to be on board for that. Also launching this week, we have the Zwift Community Live, the ZCL workout of the week with Kristen Armstrong. Live workout. So on Friday, the event is scheduled now. If you want to jump in with myself and Kristen Armstrong and get a 3-time gold medalist.
I'd like to
go ahead, Dave.
If I'm going to be racing OJ in Innsbruck, I want Kristen as my coach. I'm going to hire her as soon as we're done with this broadcast. I don't want OJ getting any technical advantage.
So it's looking forward to the Zwift Classics too. So the workout on Friday is looking forward to Bologna, and then the workout the following week is looking forward to London International. And then I
Oh,
think
great.
for our third one, we're going to be doing how to get your best time up the Alp. That might be what we're up to. I'm not positive on
Oh,
that yet for the third one. So we're starting with a 6-week series. Jump in on Fridays. We'll be
that's
scheduling that
great.
broadcast quick, but it is already in the companion app. Come and check it out. You can watch Nathan suffer with some live coaching from Kristen. And what better coach to have Nathan suffer? So
She's
it'll be good.
amazing. She really
She
is. And
is.
yeah, she's stayed very, very active since winning her 3 Olympic gold medals with our current crop of American Olympians. So I'm glad you're part of her posse now.
Yeah, she's definitely doing a great job with Zwift as well. She's got her a couple of different rides you can jump in with as well, coach rides. So definitely check that out there. I believe on Tuesdays, I think she does a K3. I think it is. It's called, but those are on early on Tuesday mornings. So next up,
That
WTRL
actually
TTT. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I was going to say, well, that dovetails nicely into our next guest. I just got confirmation that next World of Zwift, they'll have the Kristen Kolchinski edition of Dave Toll Meets. So you'll get to see what kind of behind the scenes in her life. And she's certainly one of the most exciting esports racers out there, has a great story and
That
part of
story is
that
actually really
2024.
amazing. That
It really
one
is.
is, I mean, top 10 at Worlds, Zwifter only, coming out of the community completely. Like one of those stories, I think, in a genre of riders that in the cycling world, I think are the least represented, I would say, actually, in the cycling world, because they're not out getting results in any kind of way. They're hanging out at the gym getting results that are just fitness results, right? Like that's the world that she was coming from. Your Peloton, your spin class,
Spin,
your
right?
that
Yeah.
whole world, right? And then the competitive edge that a rider like her has came out in interacting in Zwift, hooked her, and next thing you know, who would have ever identified this athlete? It would have never happened without Zwift, right? Like she just been spinning the rest of her life. Instead, now she's like a part of this top end world elite crowd. So I mean, and that's what we're seeing amongst the women too, is a lot of situations like that. That's pretty awesome to see them now in this competitive space on Zwift over and over again. Zwift Racing League and WTRL TTT is just smattered with those kinds of stories.
Yeah, moms that would never have had a chance to go travel because they've got caregiving responsibilities, but now they get to test themselves against the best in the world. I'd also like the other caveat there is how fascinating so many of our Zwifters are off of the bike, whatever their jam is outside of cycling. And Kristen is a jeweler, and you start to realize that competitive is competitive, right? And in the world of jewelry, you also have to be competitive in order to stay in business, for that matter. You got to be the best at what you do. And that really does rub off in many elements of our Zwifters' lives out there, as they're just really talented people. And Zwift is one of the things that they've shown a lot of talent at, that's for sure. But yeah, all great points and really exciting time as we head into ZRL season 4 coming up. A little more than a month away. But again, already feeling that energy. WTRL on Thursday. Nathan will be back for the 122nd consecutive week of racing. Am I right? Are we up to 122?
122. Yep. And
Holy
I also
cow.
have, we're just giving all the news and information on this one for some reason, but we also have the next Wiftcast episode 100 is coming up, and we're going to be doing that live as well. So be on the watch out for that being scheduled. Lots of
Fun.
stuff obviously coming down the road. So TTT Friday, make sure to sign up for the workout with Kristen Armstrong. And then next Monday, obviously, World of Zwift featuring Dave Toll Meets, as well as a look at how to do Bologna. This one was interesting when I did the the course run through on this. Very interesting, very different than how run to Innsbruck. Very, very different than any suggestion I would have on the run to Innsbruck for sure. It's a totally different way of racing. Definitely check that out. And Bologna next week. All right, everybody. Appreciate everybody out there. Thanks to everybody tuning in. Great job to all the racers. WTRL.racing for more results and signups for all the premier racing out on Zwift. And as always, everybody, right on.